Oh, there you are. Boy, am I glad to see you. Welcome to Friday on the AM show. You know, we get excited just because of you, because you choose to join us every morning, and we're grateful to you. Ghana for, this is the last day of our Ghana month. This is the last day of March, and come Monday, you'll see us decked in different colors. So let's rock the African while we still can. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I do this together with Bernice and Lansah. From us to you, welcome aboard. So you know what to expect. We're going to serve you the news shortly. And right after that, Samuel Kojo Brace, our wonderful colleague, will be joining us for the news review. But right after that, today's a sporting segment. We're going to be having a conversation with Coach Ofori Asare. He is head of the Black Meteors. In recent times, they have achieved that wonderful feat, beating the Algerians, drawing with them at their country, and coming to pip them by a goal to nothing. The same player netting both ways. We'll be telling you about the success story of the Black Meteors as they have advanced to the African stage. Then we get into our big stories. The very first one, Transport Minister Kweku Ofori-Asiama has revealed that Ghana Airways is on its way back. There have been many things to say about Ghana Airways, for which reason the national carrier went under many years ago. Why even revive it? What are the dynamics that government has contemplated? At what cost is it going to come? And what will this mean for us? Some say it will be a purple badge of honor to have our national carrier. Others have said it actually makes no sense. Go ahead and use the other airlines for good reason, cost saving. We'll be discussing this all-important matter with our guests this morning. Also on the show, we focus on agriculture, and that sector has been bedeviled by politicization and a lack of funding. Well, this morning, we have industry people who will be joining us to dilate on the matters impeding the growth of agriculture in our country. And finally, today, Blunt Thoughts returns. It comes your way. And I've titled it, Beautiful Tombs, Ugly Bones, the Cosmetics of Our Failed Leadership. Beautiful tombs, ugly bones, the cosmetics of our failed leadership. You don't want to miss that one. It will be eye-opening. Stay with us now for the news up next. Thank you for staying with us. In our first story, JoyNews investigations have revealed that the country's biggest indigenous cocoa buying company, the PBC's market share, has seen a steep decline from 30.88% to 8% over the last 5 years. In January last year, the management of the company hinted of downsizing its staff because it was unable to meet financial and operational obligations to its workers. In August 2022, management of that institution issued a memo. It was unable to pay salaries to staff. It's now a tale of huge debt, fallen revenue, tons of cocoa beans stuck in the farms, and produce clerks engaged in double trading to survive. There is more in the following report put together by our investigative desk.
In 2021, a whistleblower and senior staff of the produce buying company Frederick Akon petitioned the presidency over the possible bankruptcy of the state-owned venture. He raised alarm about the downward trend of PBC's market shares. In his petition to the president, he made a prediction about the market share of the company. He stated that if PBC's market share should hit a single digit, it will spell doom for the state-owned company.
Exception of our new management, I realized our fortunes per market share were falling, and as I indicated earlier, and it affected our remunerations. You know something? For the past 6 years, we have never had even 1% salary increment, and you can imagine the hardships we are all finding ourselves through in Ghana now. Even 1%, we have, because yes, it's true. The the financial difficulties and challenges we are facing. And it's all because we are not able to buy in volumes. That is why I wanted to inform the presidency. I wanted to inform the appropriate bodies to have a second look how best they can help PBC to stand on its feet to buy in volumes.
As it stands now, with the way PBC's market share is dropping, we are in the 2022-2023 cocoa season. With the way the trend is going, what do you think PBC's market share is likely to be in this season?
I'm not a prophet of doom, but we all have to be honest and be truthful to ourselves. As I predicted 2 years ago, that if things are not changed as we have been doing things, we will be buying a single digit. And if we buy a single digit, it means we are not going to be able to pay ourselves and sustain the business. Everybody will be going home.
Mr. Akron blamed management for the predicament of PBC and urged a change in business strategy to protect the livelihood of over 900 staff and 15,000 commission-based clerks. Mr. Akron, after blowing the whistle, was suspended, demoted, and eventually sacked for drawing the attention of the presidency to save the company and enable it buy in huge volumes of cocoa.
Invited by PBC executive management, they intimidated me. Now, why should I write to the presidency to tell the president? Why should I write to the presidency? Then I explained myself to them. Then I explained myself to them and I left. Then I was interdicted. But after I met executive management and I explained myself to them, you know one thing that surprised me? There was not a single question from the executive management as to solutions I have for the PBC, because I wrote a letter to the presidency explaining our downward fortunes of PBC.
Let's talk energy now, and there will be an interruption of power supply beginning tomorrow, April the 1st. This is due to an intended shutdown of the Akakpo processing plant by the Ghana Gas Company for thorough maintenance works. The shutdown, JoyNews is learning, will affect gas supply to some power plants. The Energy Ministry, in a statement earlier, urged the Electricity Company of Ghana to publish a load-shedding program for the outages. Director of Communications at Ghana Gas, Ernest Owusu-Bempah, says the maintenance is necessary for maximum performance of the plant.
The engineers thought it wise that we need to do some major maintenance routine, and hence the shutdown. And one of the key ingredients that has contributed to the reduction of doomsaw and all those recklessness going on is because of the fact that we have a good maintenance culture, and that has helped us in terms of maintaining the gas processing plant. They're looking at the whole gas processing plant, from where we extract the raw gas from to where we transfer the gas for power generation, LPG, condensate, and the rest. So the whole gas processing plant is like a machine. It's like a car going to the mechanic for servicing. I think it's starting from April. We have what we call a tie-in. Ghana Gas Processing Plant is supplying almost about 110 SCF. Sankofa is also supplying. So the combination is giving us about 350 million SCF. So if Ghana Gas stops, the rest of the other is shut down. The rest of the other gas fields will be flowing gas and pushing it to Abuazi processing plant, Abuazi for thermal generation. So obviously, we're going to be having gas. And then WAPCO has also assured us that they will also be pushing gas to the eastern enclaves as well. So a combination of that with a little bit of support of heavy fuel to also power some of our thermal plants, I think that is going to be, we're good to go.
Let's go to Parliament now, and that House is expected to go on Easter break today. But 3 outstanding tax measures are still yet to get the House's approval. The tax bills together could contribute up to 4 billion cedis to the national kitty, without which government has said it may not get an IMF bailout. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports on that matter.
Another day in Parliament and barely 24 hours for Parliament to go on Easter break as per its tentative schedule. Parliament has still not approved the 3 controversial tax measures that came with the 2023 budget. Those 3 tax bills have been on the other paper for some time now and has still not been approved. The income tax amendment, the excise duty amendment, and the growth and sustainability amendment bills have all been staying in Parliament for some considerable time, and at the end of this quarter, the first quarter of the new year, government is still yet to get the needed revenue, as it says. The President, the Finance Minister, the Information Minister, and other key government functionaries have all said that these are prior actions that government will need to get through before it can get the IMF loan. These 3 measures, and to start with, the income tax amendment bill is expected to rake in 1.2 billion cedis annually. It is expected to amend the income tax laws of Ghana. It will exempt minimum wage earners and would alter foreign exchange losses treatment in financial statements. The other one, having to do with the excise duty amendment bill, is expected to rake in about 400 million Ghana cedis annually, and will achieve this by imposing 20% tax on e-smoking and fruit juices in this country. And finally, the Growth and Sustainability Amendment Bill is expected to rake in 2.2 billion Ghana cedis annually and will replace the current National Fiscal Stabilization Levy. With barely 24 hours for Parliament to go on break, that is if they adhere to the timeline they set for themselves, government is still yet to get through this. And today, quite surprisingly, some protesters were here in Parliament asking MPs to pass this bill into law.
We are losing a lot of lives in this country, especially the youth. So we are here for them to pass that law for us so that the youth will be saved. Because most of the youth are dying for cancer, like 17 years, 18 years. They are losing their life of this smoking habits and other things. That electronic shisha pipeline, these things are air koswa. Boss minumi ya say and kofu air shromonkwa e nyayare e my room. So we are praying say that so that they can pass that law for us. That's what we are here.
Statistics from Ghana Health Service is saying that most of these youths are using these devices, the e-smoking devices, shisha and the rest. The bill that is before Parliament seeks to impose more taxes on these products so that they can be able to pass into law and help us come out and protect the youth. For instance, if you look at the e-smoking devices that are rampant these days in the country, most of them are from these businessmen. When this bill is being passed, because of the taxes, most of these businessmen cannot go outside and bring them in. And we believe that government of the day is trying to protect the Ghanaian youth. That's why we youth in accountable governance is saying that there is a need for us to get ourselves involved. Most importantly, we believe that when the bill is being passed, it will hasten the progress at which we are at currently now on the IMF stage. You know, so that because we are in difficulties right now.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Let's stay in Parliament, but from the legal angle, and an Accra High Court has ruled that Minority Leader Dr. Cassiel Forson has a case to answer on the allegation that he played a key role in the procurement of defective ambulances. The transaction has resulted in a loss of more than €2 million to the state. The Attorney General called 5 witnesses, including Health Minister Kweku Agyeman to testify against Dr. Forson. Lawyers for Dr. Forson urged the court to acquit and discharge him since a case had not been made requiring him to respond. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akakpo now reports.
Dr. Forson is standing trial together with former Chief Director at the Ministry of Health, Seth Animana, and businessman Richard Jakpa. The state is said to have lost more than 2 million euros because of the procurement of defective ambulances. The minority leader and other accused persons have always maintained their innocence.
The coincidence speaks volume about the motivation for these frivolous and baseless charges. In fact, I call it e-levy charges. A cursory reading of the frivolous and politically motivated charges shows that my only role in the entire transaction was to have signed a letter on behalf of the Minister of Finance.
The Attorney General disagrees. Through 5 witnesses, he insisted that the 3 accused persons have a case to answer. The case against the minority leader borders on 2 letters he authored. The main one had asked the Bank of Ghana to establish letters of credit for the ambulance supplier. The AG contends this was contrary to the terms of the contract, as payments should have been made only after pre-shipment inspection. Lawyers for Dr. Forson, however, argue that issuance of letters of credit does not amount to payment. They also insist he wrote these letters in his capacity as Deputy Minister for the Finance Minister, tasked and authorized by the Finance Minister, Seth Tekpe. The court, presided over by Justice Ifia Saribotre, in its ruling noted that every party in the case admits in one way or the other that the ambulances imported into the country were defective. On the question of whether Dr. Forson was authorized to write the said letter, Justice Saribotre said lawyers for Dr. Forson seem to have misapprehended the law. The court said once the AG stated that Dr. Forson did not have such authority and Dr. Forson replied that he had seen, the responsibility was on him to show that he had the said authority. Evidence before the court, he noted, shows that Seth Tekpe even told prosecutors he did not have much information when he gave his statement. All 3 accused persons have been ordered to open their defense. The case is back in court on April 13.
Now, a committee tasked by the Ministry of Local Government to investigate the Ketia market fire has started work. The committee toured the market to access first-hand information on its management, including the area affected by the fire. Management of the facility, led by Edmund Kofi Dufour, took the team through the market. Nanaya Ojima has more in this report.
The committee, inaugurated on Wednesday, is chaired by Professor Theophilus Ejekumi of the Department of Construction Technology and Management at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Other members include private legal practitioner Francis Kofi, real estate consultant Kofi Ampon, and Deputy Director General for NADMO, Daniel Kwekudente. Emilia Ajeben Butche serves as secretary to the committee. Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Local Government, Osei Bonsu Amwa, spoke about the composition of the committee.
They are supposed to bring their findings and recommendations within 3 weeks to ensure that at least we get to the bottom of this matter. And as we were told at the inauguration, they are free to invite witnesses to be able to arrive at their findings and then to make recommendations. The decision was not to involve any board member on the committee. The board members are free to appear before the committee. The decision was also made not to involve the various associations at the market, including their reps on the board. They are free to appear before the committee to tell their story. So we are hoping that within 3 weeks, when the findings and recommendations are ready, the minister would also act on them and then would see a better situation as far as the market is concerned. And obviously, whatever lessons we learn, they will also be applied to the one under construction.
All committee members on their first day of work were present at the Ketia market. Together with a team from the Kumasi City Markets Limited, they went to parts of the market affected by the fire. Other areas, including fire installations and CCTV rooms, were among areas of interest. The committee refused to speak to their impressions on the fact-finding mission. The committee's terms of reference include inquiry into circumstances of and establish the facts leading to the fire outbreak. They would also inquire into matters incidental or reasonably related to cause of the fire outbreak, and also inquire into efficient operation, maintenance and management of the market. The ministry expects the committee to submit a report on their findings and give recommendations with the view of preventing future disasters. For Joy News, Nana Ojima, Kumasi.
Well, that'll be our final story for you, but stay with us. My own colleague, you heard from him this morning, Joseph Akakpo, joins me as I get into the papers. Well, here we are back on the AM show. It's time for us to dig into the papers, and I'm in very good company. My colleague in mischief. He's one of my colleagues in mischief. Positive mischief, if you like. But right before I introduce him, let's get into the sponsorship for this segment, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they are offering gratis, free, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Where can you locate them? Here in Accra, they are in Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronum Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. You can find them in Anaji Estate if you're in Takrade. If you are in Tema, Community 22 is where you can locate them. Techiman Hanswa and Siama Enzima. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, but just the start of the news review. And today, like I said, you don't often see him. He's usually doing legal stuff, but he's here in the studio. Joseph Akakpo. Let's do it like we do with Kojo Brace. Charlie, what am I to say?
Abako.
Ghana man,
I mean, we can try in Zima. So
I was going to ask where you come from, and then give us something.
Yeah, I'm from Ekwe.
Ekwe.
Yeah, it's in the
Western.
Yeah, Western region. It's in the Elembele constituency.
Oh.
Yeah, so the deputy minority leaders constituency, Manu Amakufibwa. So
I see.
Elembele, yeah.
I see.
So I mean, you say Kodie.
Oh yeah, Kojo Brace has said it on the show before,
okay,
and I would say what? I always have to.
You can either say Bete or Milwaukee.
Yeah, he said Milwaukee. Yeah, I remember. That's what he
said. He's a hunter, so they are more likely to say that, but both are correct anyways. It actually doesn't even mean I am fine. It simply means like a day.
Okay. I get it.
Milwaukee.
So it's sort of slang within the language.
Yeah. So like Milwaukee, like
So what's the other one? Better.
Better is like fine.
So like chi that form. What
it's a G dialect.
No, it sounds good. Charlie, I'll come for lessons. You teach me a few things. But how do you say football in your language?
I have no idea.
You know, there are some words in the English language that you would really struggle. Either they don't exist, or you would struggle to find them in some specific local language.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally there are things that didn't emanate from here. So our languages have not been developing for a while. So it's yesterday on SMS we were trying MRI.
Challenge.
MRI in Chi. I mean, and we also tried domestic debt exchange.
Wow.
Okay, that one I said it is a fie car in society.
Okay, that makes sense. Some of the terms are interesting. I remember the first time I heard of gas. You know gas, right?
No, I have no idea.
I think Ujaframa, something like that.
I think I should think so, yeah.
Ujaframa. Yellow is Akokosradi. You know, some of these things are interesting. The coinages just to match up. But you know what? It'll be interesting to find out, how do you say football in your language? Local language, whether Dagbani or whatever. Share with us live on the AM show. You can shoot us a message. But before we get into the papers, you know, Akakpo has these legs, wonderfully shaped legs, like Abediayu Pele. That's why I brought in the football bits. Do you play football?
A long time ago, I used to play. I played under 12.
But you say,
oh no. Those who I mean,
coach football.
I'm sure. Yeah, coach football under 12, 14, and 17. Yeah. I stopped at a point.
Why?
So I stopped when I was at under 14 and I was playing a bit of 17. The reason is those who used to play under 17, some of them were very talented, and they left to join teams and they kept coming back. Like you get it, like people who are better than you.
Yeah.
Then they get a deal, they go. Then after a year or two, they come back again to the same club. So I felt like, I was like, yeah, I'm good, but I'm not as good as this guy. So why has he gone and he's come back? So I thought it was too risky a thing. So I just thought I should just focus on schooling. Yeah.
I wish you had pursued it though. I wish
I
you had pursued
also actually think so.
That dream, because
I also actually think so.
I feel nowadays many people who dropped football at a point who are very talented, they would be kicking themselves, looking at how lucrative football has become.
Yeah, and I mean, even experience has taught us over the period that it's not the most talented footballers that actually make it to the top.
True.
We know players like Freddie Edu. There is this Boyan. He retired.
Which Edu? Is it the one who ended up playing for the United States?
Exactly.
That one?
Yes. You know, he was likened to World Pele at a point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, what became of his career?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a player, Boyan, he used to play for Barcelona, very top player, but he didn't get to the pinnacle as we expect. So it's not necessarily how good you are.
That even reminds me of Adia. Do you remember?
Very well.
Adia was scouted to be the next. I think he was the player of the tournament.
Yes, and the other player to Ransford say. In fact, Adia went to AC Milan after that.
Yeah, I was just about to get to that, and that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily, you don't need talent you don't have to be the most talented to get to the top. It goes beyond talent and everything.
It is what it is. But let's get into the papers. For me, I have the Daily Graphic, Ghanaian Times Publisher, and the Custodian. What do you have?
I have with me the Daily Guide, the Finder, and the Daily Statesman.
Okay, let's start from your end.
So I'll start with the front page of the Daily Guide. It says a new common fund sharing formula approved, and massive turnout for Baumia Group launch comes along with a photograph of that event. And Mahama buys delegates with awards. It comes along with a photograph of former President JDM. A court orders Ato Forson to open his defense and prioritize terrorism fights, Nana tells the UN Security Council. The back page says CAF confirms AFCON 2023 dates, and I have never felt old to retire, Hodgson declares. 75-year-old Roy Hodgson, who is going to take over at Crystal Palace. Forest boss
He's taking over from Patrick Vieira, right?
Vieira, who was sacked a couple of weeks ago. And Forest boss confirms Dede injury. And FIFA strips Indonesia of World Cup rights. Also on the back page, I'll quickly do the Finder front page. It says, Ministry denies politicizing road allocations. Professor Ofori Buedu gets high recognition in US for professional contribution. And 2022 Jubilee House had 361 political appointees. 163 worked fiscally at the presidency, and 198 worked with other state agencies. And so that is it for the front page of the Finder.
All right, we'll be getting into the details of some of those stories. So if there are any ones you'd particularly like to get into from the Daily Guide, we could start from there.
I think the court orders Ato Forson to open his defense.
That's a story you followed.
Yes, it has to do with this ambulance saga, and you know, some ambulances were brought into the country, about 50 of them. We are told that, according to the state prosecutors, that they were defective, in that when they came in, they realized that it did not meet the specifications. And Dr. Ato Forson, current minority leader at the time of the transaction, was a deputy finance minister, and he had written...
who was it at the time? Was it Segbefia?
Segbefia was there.
No,
Segbefia was at Health.
Yes, who was the Minister of Health? It was Segbefia, right?
It spanned across. So there was a period where the Speaker of Parliament was also there.
Yeah.
Then there was a period that Alex Segbefia was also there. Yeah. But in terms of the finance ministry, it was Seth Stekwe and Dr. Kasiel Ato Forson. They were the ones who were at that particular ministry. So the substance of the case against him is a letter that he wrote to the ministry, the Bank of Ghana, asking that it establishes letters of credit for the supplier. The AG argues that that is what set in motion the processes that led to the payment, in that that should not have been done until pre-shipment inspection had been carried out. Because if pre-shipment inspection as provided in the contract had been carried out, it would have been seen that the said vehicles were not fit for purpose, and so they would not have been brought in.
You know, pause right there. What interests me, I think just this year, we saw a similar situation, I think with ambulances as well. Similar situation, and I was asking myself, did we learn any lessons, supposedly? Because then again, you remember, I think even COVID-19, you remember we expended some, is it 16 million or 6 million or something, and we paid some 600,000, something like that.
Yeah.
If we go back,
I
we'll
remember.
get that story.
It was in there.
And even till now, we've not taken delivery of those ambulances.
Yes. So that shows that we don't really, learn much and change. But I mean, the court took the view that, and once the prosecution closes its case, mostly the defense lawyers will make a submission of no case to say that the minimum threshold has not been met. But the court, presided over by Justice Efia Saribotre in her ruling, indicated that the lawyers for Dr. Atuforsen seem to have misapprehended the law when they stated that the AG should have called Seth Tekpe to prove that Dr. Forsen did not have authorization to write the said letter. It was the opinion of the court that once the AG stated that Dr. Forsen did not have such authority and he replied that he did, the responsibility was on Dr. Forsen to show that he had the authority to do so. And so Dr. Forsen is supposed to open his defense. The case is back in court on April 13. Two others were also before the court. Former Chief Director at the Ministry of Health, Seth Animana, and businessman Richard Jampa, who acted as an agent for Big C Trading Company Limited. The company was supposed to supply the ambulance. Is also supposed to open his defense. He had argued the separate legal personality argument, but the court disagreed that in instances where illegal activity is suspected or alleged to have been committed, the veil can be pierced to have him go ahead as the controlling mind to open his defense in this particular matter.
Or usually you would hear that he who alleges must prove, but as the processes go on, Atuforsen will also have to come in, like we say, remove his mouth in this matter. That's an interesting one, especially now. You know what interests me? This entire saga, Dr. Kasila Atuforsen has been pretty upbeat, optimistic that nothing will come of this, that it is just a witch hunt or something of the sort. But especially now that he is, heading the minority, if anything were to happen, I like playing with hypotheses and scenarios and how this would go if that happened. But if any such thing happened, it could be pretty tricky.
Yeah, in fact,
for the NDC.
The judge had indicated that she hopes she will be able to conclude the matter by June this year. That's just about 2 months away. So, it'll be quite interesting. This was one of the issues that people pointed to when Dr. Atuforsen was made the minority leader about, what happens should the expected or unexpected happen, depending on which side of the matter you are on. So
anyway, my final question on that bit: whatever happened to those 50+ ambulances? What has happened to them?
They are parked at a national security facility under the supervision of the National Security and the Ministry of Health, but they are just unfit for purpose. The government holds the view that they are simply Benz buses, no proper equipment. It's not an ambulance. That's just basically the description. And the judge yesterday actually noted that what is obvious from the arguments in court is that all sides agree that the ambulances are defective, because whilst the defense hold the view that they can be remedied in terms of the defect, the prosecution holds the view that they are not fit for purpose. And the judge says that leaves the court with no doubt that if you buy vehicles that you're supposed to use and you're unable to use them, there's no doubt that a loss has been occasioned.
So loss, but will this loss amount to punitive measures, especially considering the status, so to speak, of Kasila Atuforsen, Dr. Atuforsen in Parliament? Well, only time will tell. I saw a story in the entertainment spread of the paper on Yule Dochi. You remember his saga with his wife?
Yeah.
So he has lost a son?
Yeah. The story here says that a boy was rushed to a Nigerian hospital after falling unconscious, but he didn't make it alive. Very unfortunate. His sister-in-law, who was at the scene, reportedly said that the boy read throughout the night preparing for his exam on Thursday. Oof. After his exam in school, he joined his mates to play football, and that's when he got a seizure and was rushed to the hospital. And all efforts to resuscitate him proved futile. Wow, very unfortunate.
So I get it that he was already stressed. Sometimes he was already stressed.
Exam.
He was studying, preparing for exams. So you do a lot. You remember back then in school, you basically had your phone and all of that. Yeah. Your body is already under pressure. I don't know what the other circumstances are. I don't know whether he regularly plays football or whether he just wanted to do it. Because something that, and all respect to Yule Dochi and his family, no one is trying to denigrate anything. We condole with him. But sometimes in sports, it's like working out. You don't start, go into it. Yeah. I've heard the story of a medical doctor who recommended that a woman who had quite a bit of weight had to start exercising and she should take a walk. He didn't specify how much she should do, or maybe not to go overboard. She really went at it the very first day. Came, passed out, that was it. Her heart gave up on her.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether, considering all the stress he was likely going through preparing for exams, then going boom, if he's not someone who plays. You know, football is like that if you don't play. And we've seen players fall on the pitch.
In fact,
Mark Vivian Foy,
even footballers, these are people who are very athletic. It happens to them. I think it's good to exercise, but it needs to be under some form of professional supervision sometimes. Yeah.
And moderation really is needed. Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Nalerigu Gambaga constituency, home of scenic tourist sites, and Ghana Month. We're showing you today that bit by Rafiq Salam in that baobab tree in which you can enter. There's a door that has been carved and a window as well. You can actually hide from the rain in there. Tackling violent extremism requires collective response. President Akufo-Addo says so, and he said that at the UN Security Council. Power production in danger. ECG owes IPPs, that is the independent power producers, $1.4 billion. And there's been talk recently about paying them $50 million a month and all of that, but they have roundly kicked against that. 4 parties kick against overhaul of constitution. And we've heard Mr. President also speak on that in recent times. But there are many who have said that the Constitution, even lawmakers, parliamentarians who have said the Constitution is in dire need of some tweaking. Let's do those stories, and I'll also do some international stories in the paper. But emergency facility needed along Tamale-Kintampo Highway, and this stretch has seen a lot of accidents. This Tamale-Kintampo Highway. Last year, horrific accidents, big bus accidents and all of that. I suspect that is part of why, yes, and that is exactly what the story says. To handle accident cases that occur on the stretch.
Too many people died that we lost on that stretch. The musician,
Ebony Rains.
Yeah, that stretch.
Stretch, yeah. I know she was coming from the Ashanti area, from Kumasi.
Yeah. I mean, it's in fact, a couple of weeks ago, Erastus brought us this story about that effectively documented the accidents that have happened on that particular stretch. And so it's quite disturbing.
Let's get into that story very quickly. Not the Kintampo one, but independent power producers, the electricity generation companies that control 50% of the country's generation mix, have called on the government to urgently settle its indebtedness to them. The 9 companies said the ECG owed them about the CD equivalent of $1.4 billion as of last month. The independent power generators, formerly known as the Chamber of Independent Power Producers, Distributors and Bulk Consumers, told the Daily Graphic in an exclusive interview that the government must pay up at least the overdue debt, which constituted more than half of the indebtedness. Quoting them, they say, just to wrap, if the ECG does not pay up part of the debt owed our members, they cannot guarantee continuous production of power for the next 2 weeks. The situation is so dire that something urgent must be done. The Chief Executive Officer of the IPGG, Dr. Elikplim Apetogbo, told the Daily Graphic in that interview. That's like a warning for us. 1.4 billion is no mean sum. In fact, government also owes some of these power producers themselves. I'm talking about the local, so VRA, NEDCO, ECG. And the ECG has been on its own drive. It's interesting how they are targeting government institutions now. The Finance Ministry, the University of Ghana.
Yeah, they are the ones who owe them the bulk of what is outstanding. And it's sad.
But there's industry, steel producers and the rest who are also in there. Salt producers, they
know themselves. They know themselves. About that. But we fail to make power quite profitable. We've not been able to collect what we are giving out by way of the power in order we all use electricity. It should be able to pay for itself. Why is it that someone that's giving you electricity that has been used and you're unable to pay for it? It's very difficult to tell because the person you are giving it to has to give you the money and you pay the guy who gives you the power. It's very simple, but we know there are system laws.
So I take from you, you consume the power, I take from you, I pay the next person, and we continue the cycle to ensure that everything runs well. But you see, it interests me because that also brings to mind subsidies. Remember under the Rawlings administration, that was why eventually we had to do away with these subsidies because they were crippling our economy in different ways. In fact, Nigeria currently they are undergoing something of the sort where they're going to wean the population of subsidies, but in return, public sector workers will get a little top up in terms of their salaries. I mean, that is in the, in the process. But in this instance, I really don't know.
But you see that the reason we don't allow even other private suppliers to on their own play the role that ECG plays is because we know that electricity is essential. And so the least we can do is to ensure that at least the ones that we are given, we are able to get the money back. And yesterday we reported about power theft. We've seen police barracks that are illegally connected. We've seen a hotel at Ibri yesterday. I was listening to the external affairs manager.
We will just avoid mentioning the name, but we...
Yeah, she says...
This is illegal.
Yeah, she said they have a whole infrastructure.
It's a facility. They've created a facility just to circumvent
bypass the process. This is very deliberate.
And this is a popular... Do you know, when I saw it... Because recently, just a few days ago, a friend was showing me the place. Apparently, someone had a plush wedding. And,
I have gone there before with Mukito and a couple of others. We've gone there before.
So the person was showing me this just a few days ago. Yeah. So when I saw them, I was like, So I opened the thing and said, hey, put your light, bro. And the charges, be small like that too. The charges, well, it is what it is. Let's see how that goes. But I really hope that is resolved because having experienced Doomsday, Charlie, we don't want to get...
And you know there's a load shedding.
We beg them. As for the load shedding,
let's
not make people think that it is tied to this because it is not. But it started yesterday.
In fact,
some people were affected yesterday.
In actual sense, the external communications manager says it's actually been on for 7 days already.
That explains because in fact, in my area, it's been...
My area tweet went off 2 days ago. So they were explaining that the rule is that it goes off between 6 and 11 for 5 hours. So it goes off. So when it goes off today, then you have electricity for 3 days. Then your area goes off again. And so that explains why 2 days ago my area went off. So it's presupposed that maybe my area will go off maybe tomorrow. But the load shedding timetable is available. It's on myjoyonline.com.
You can check it out from there. Let's quickly make tracks. I just want to highlight this story because I know you'll be interested, and then look at, just go to the headlines in the international. 4 parties kick against overhaul of constitution, but CPP supports amendment. So the CPP supports it. Sami Jemfi, National Communications Officer of the NDC, says the party shares in the call for constitutional amendment, but the lack of consensus among the major stakeholders and political parties has hindered a review of the constitution. Remember 2010? Under Atta Mills, the Constitutional Review Commission. They came out with, their findings. A white paper was issued, and that was the end of it. The MPP explains that the amendment should be centered on specific provisions, and no one has said it should be a wholesale. What do you think? The PPP, PNC, and others independent groups are saying, you know what, let's not go this way. What do you think?
I think we can make some amendments. I don't buy the overall, like a grand overhauling of too many parts of the constitution.
I agree with you, but some things...
There are some amendments over one thereabout, because I think generally constitutions also reflect the aspirations of the people as well as the framers who put together the constitution. And I mean, we heard the court in the Tufo vs. Attorney General case indicate that the constitution is a living organism capable of growth. And so that growth takes place when amendments are done and when the courts apply or interpret and enforce the constitution. It makes changes to it. So I'm not for a wholesale review. I just think that there are parts of it that we can tweak as and when they become necessary.
Just on that point, you know what the Constitution says about cabinet and the ministers and all of that? The 19 stipulated by the Constitution, which we have flouted flagrantly, like you book constitutional on that. I think currently we have, is it 26 or 28?
Making up the cabinet.
Yes.
So what they mostly do...
So the ministers...
So what they mostly do is that in terms of the official records, they will still have the 19, but I mean, in terms of those who attend the meeting, there will be, more than 19.
These are things that we really ought to look at. For me, those are some of the little things that we ought to contemplate. But on the international front, Google, others criticize Uganda anti-LGBTQ bill. Charlie, I'm finding so many things that I know because we are students of the law. What do you make of it? Sentences up to about 20 years. They call something aggravated something. I've seen the list. Charlie, don't be joke. And here, we've seen Kamala Harris come through her rhetoric. We've heard from Mr. President, and then the Speaker went gaga on that matter. What do you make of it?
I think Parliament yesterday, the committee is recommending the passage of the anti-LGBT bill.
I saw one of the MPs on the committee saying that, Charlie, they are going to go ahead.
I mean, I just hope that what Parliament passes eventually is not going to be something that restricts rights. I mean,
the President said there have been modifications.
Yes.
Parliament has confirmed that some things have changed.
So we have to see how the document looks now. I mean, that will be difficult to tell. But I for a start, have always been against the advocacy element that the law was attempting to criminalize. I mean, I thought that impeded directly on free speech. I mean, I think it's within our rights to want to legislate against such acts that we consider wrong. But I think in doing so, we have to also stick to the ethos of the Constitution, which speaks for fundamental human rights, and that is also provided for. So it's just about finding the right balance, just to ensure that all sides of the country, and more importantly, the rights of citizens, are not needlessly curtailed.
Harris, the American Vice President, enters free over democracy with visit to Tanzania. She's pictured here with Philip Mpango, Tanzania's Vice President, and Salva Kiir breaches South Sudan peace agreement. That's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. There were quite a number of themes to discuss. But let's check out some other papers.
I'll just end with the Daily Statesman. It says, prioritize terrorism fight, Akufo-Addo charges UN Security Council. And BMW, that is Bawumia, must win. MPP should make history with Bawumia. And the story about the president submitting the annual report on staffing to the presidency. The back page, Ghana captain Andre Ayew wishes Muslims a fulfilling Ramadan. And Carl Frampton column, Anthony Joshua needs to knock out Jermaine Franklin, then call out Tyson Fury. It's also on the back page. I think that will be it for me, Ben.
You know, speaking of the fast and everything, there was a question about some Black Stars player. I'm not going to mention his name. Whether he's practicing, because I say, I don't know, because some were avoiding water. Oh, Charlie. Senior go away that thing. A very good morning to Charlie. Oh dear, we'll leave it there. I'm not earning his kind of money, so you make her relax. We drew her, then maybe we'll look at what happens. But the Ghanaian Times newspaper, parts of country to face 14-day power interruption as a Tribal gas plant shuts down for maintenance. NIA begins distributing backlogged 541,529 Ghana cards Wednesday. And MP urges President to ratify amended Suicide Act. This one, I was so happy, decriminalizing, the attempt to commit suicide. Because, I mean, the person, and across the world, this is something that the person is considered ill, basically.
Yeah,
it's a form of illness. If you're in your proper state of mind, you wouldn't contemplate. And in our situation, on the back of the harsh economic situation and everything, I have met people, look, right in front here, in front of our premises. There was a day when, especially when inflation had gone so high, fuel prices were at their peak and everything, right in front of us. I saw this young man. I don't think he was losing it, but he passed by. I even shared it in one of my blunt thoughts. He passed right by me. This guy was just, even the cars passing, he hadn't lost it, but he was just talking, he was just lost in thought.
Yeah.
People like that, it's just a fine line between giving up on it all. And to incarcerate such people, I find it really unfortunate.
And the other part of the good thing about this amendment that has gone under the radar bit is that they also amended the Mental Health Act. They amended under it the interpretation section to include suicide as part of the mental disorders. That is, people who are having suicidal thoughts. They've included it in the definition of mental disorder. And so that will allow for such persons, if you manage to intervene to prevent someone from committing suicide, that person could be taken over to the health facility to be treated, as against what we had in the past, where we'll simply arrest you and prosecute you, and you can be in jail for a maximum of 3 years. I guess part of why I'm so passionate about this, twice in my life, uncalled for, I've had to counsel 2 people out of suicide. The first was on campus, University of Ghana. As a Legionary of Mary, we go around, we interact with people, share the word of God with them. I'll never forget. I went past that room and I felt something go back. I nearly moved on and I said, no. I went back to this room. It was in a Kwafu hall. I met this lady. She was preparing yam. I'll never forget. She was preparing yam and she, I'm busy. I was with a colleague and I said, you know what? We can stay while we just started speaking. This lady broke down.
broke into tears. Apparently, the doctors don't know exactly what is wrong with her, but she's practically spends almost every week. At some point, she's in hospital. She has some conditions, and so everyone, she says, everyone in the hospital knows me.
Yeah.
I am like so regular. And she said she had been contemplating suicide. She had tried it, and that very week, within that week, she was really thinking of going, like just ending it all. So we now had to sit down, speak to her. I took her number. I engaged her for months. Months. So it is real. The other one, I was in church some day after, Mass, and someone came to me that this person was looking for me. Someone that, the interesting thing is sometimes we don't realize that people are going through lots of stuff. This person, senior person in our church, in a group and all of that. So I felt, So when I went and sat by the person and he started telling me his story that, look, XYZ and I'm contemplating suicide, I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. I just prayed to God to give me utterance. I met that person after so many years, just some weeks back, somewhere in Alaju. So that situation is very tricky. I don't think people should be victimized for that. Let's wrap with this one. NIA begins distribution of backlogged 529 Ghana cards Wednesday. What do you make of that back and forth and how much it owes? You remember they owe over $100 million.
Yeah, they managed to.
And recently they were given 100 million CDs or something.
Yeah, so that's how come they were able to print the outstanding ones, which they are going to distribute. I mean, I think if the overall objective is to have a credible database of citizens and persons who live in Ghana, the easiest way to do it is to make it very easy for people to get access to the card. If it's too difficult, then people will now want to go around and get it in various ways, and people will also feel like they are being denied their rights to get onto the voters register, since it will, the proposed CI is supposed to be the main document to be used. And so, I mean, the NIA, we all hope that the resources that they need is made available such that they can immediately print cards for people who need them and who wants them, and everyone should be able to get that card. And once we get to that level, I don't think people will complain about whatever we decide to use that card for.
All right, to wrap from my end, so the Ghanaian publisher, Akufo-Addo, submits staff list to Parliament. I'll get into that. Court orders are to force him to open defense. There's Amidu, Martin, Alamisi, Burns, Kaiser, Amidu. I love the Kaiser.
Yeah.
Sometimes I call him Mapka, shortened form of his.
He said real anti-corruption crusaders don't wear masks.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, what do you make of his latest? I don't want to call it a rant because then it appears, but he's written. He never writes short stuff. It's always he goes in there, in depth.
I like people who are like that. I don't want to be misunderstood.
He's very specific.
If I'm expressing myself, I want to express myself fully.
He's very specific, and I like that. So no one can take you out of context. Yeah. But that has to do with the Anas and Ken 25 million defamation suit. What's your take on what he said?
I generally agree with him on the law, as the judge stated it. As to the extra comments on whether anti-corruption crusaders must wear masks or not, I'm not too sure.
I think I was thinking the same thing you were thinking as well. I mean, if that is what it takes to fight. After all, our president himself said he would use the Anas principle.
Yeah,
Anas with a mask.
Yeah,
Anas has never been without a mask.
When he was
at least in this.
He was the opposition leader, when he came to power.
The network article, article. Akufo-Addo submits staff list to Parliament, and the President, in keeping with Section 11 of the Presidential Office Act 1993, that is Act 463, has submitted to Parliament the annual report on the staffing position of the Office of the President. The report, covering the period 1st January to 31st December 2022, captures 3 key areas, namely the number of presidential staff employed at the Office of the President during the period, the ranks and grades of these staff, and the employees of other public services assigned to the Office of the President. People have said that in dealing with cost, this too must be looked at, the staffers at the presidency. And have you seen, in recent times, I shared my blunt thoughts talking about some of the costs there. Yeah. And even this year, I think over 41 million or so for travel, just for a few offices, about 4 of them. Hey.
Yeah, they have a lot of executive assistants and
some of the titles,
technical advisor and technical economic advisor, strategists, a lot of things. But I mean, they've decided to put this out because mostly when they submit the list to Parliament, it becomes this political football thing. There are too many people there are too many people there, and those things. But the presidency didn't put out the attached documents which would have the names and designations. They've not put that one out, but it is part of the package that they sent to Parliament, so that we'll see that Benjamin Akakpo, you are a technical economic advisor, or you are a messenger or executive assistant.
No. Even if you're a messenger, there's a nice way of couching it. They'll couch it now nicely. They will not. We're wrapping. Just final thoughts. Mahama to give awards for more NDC votes, and he's saying that in the constituencies also, the more votes you are able to get at the grassroots, will give educational awards or something. Have you followed that story?
Yeah, I've seen it. That's the Daily Guide captures it.
Yeah. That's what
Mahama buys delegates. I think it's a scheme geared at motivating the party members to work.
The more votes you get, the more you get rewarded.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
let's see how that one goes.
Let's see how it goes. Charlie, it's been great. It's been great having you join me this morning. My blunt thoughts, maybe if you want to know the title, Beautiful Tombs, Ugly Bones, the cosmetics of our failed leadership. Beautiful tombs, ugly bones, the cosmetics of our failed leadership. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. You can look forward to that one after sports. Thelma Obimpe, my very good friend, celebrates her birthday tomorrow. I'll not be here. So, T, a very happy birthday to you. Mao Neira. Or Mao Bibi. So, stop disturbing me all the time. Thelma Obimpe, God richly bless you. Right before we go into sports, this segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering you free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Locate them in Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Kronoma Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade and Aji State Community 22 in Tema. Hanswa in Techiman and in Zama Esiama. Call them on 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Let's gear up for sports this morning, and we're talking about the Black Meteors and how far they have come under their coach. They've done wonders qualifying for the Continental Showpiece, but how did they do it? That is up next in sports. Do stay. Well, we do love our football, don't we? But it's not football we're going to be doing this morning, though the Black Meteors have done so well. It's rather the Black Bombers, and we're going to be looking at their latest exploits. That up next in sports.
Coach, did I enter right?
Yeah, you are. Nice one.
Yeah.
That's a strong punch. You could have been a very good boxer.
Oh, really? I think I've got a quality.
Yeah. You know, there are a whole lot of inherent talents. So it depends on which one you choose.
So I would have been a very good boxer?
Can be
so which weight division would I fit?
Roughly, I would say you'll be a very good bantamweight.
Bantamweight?
Yeah.
Oh. I think many people know the bantamweight, featherweight.
Yeah, but from bantamweight, go to featherweight. Bantamweight is where Isaac Dogbe is when he got the world title.
Yes.
And now he has moved up to super bantamweight.
Okay. Coach, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. And you?
I'm also doing good.
Sure.
I'm here to learn some of the skills.
That's good.
Coach, how does your life start all out for you to be one of the revered boxing trainers we've got in the country? How did it start?
Well, actually, I started following boxing through my uncle.
Okay.
My uncle was a boxer, and it's called Kim Pepe. Kim Pepe, yeah. And
is it Pepe we know?
Yeah, Pepe we know. And he used to take me to the gym whenever he's going to training.
Okay.
And by then I was a kid, so
Okay.
I also started developing the interest by seeing him doing sparring and all those sort of things. By then he trains with Obite Kome, if you heard the name. Obite Kome. And then around the gym, the coaches there are Teddy Lamte, who is a very good friend of my uncle.
Oh, okay.
And a whole lot of coaches, great coaches like Coach Agbana and all here. So I developed the interest, and I found myself also learning boxing, and I had my time. I did small amateur boxing, and I was turned to pro as well.
Oh, really?
And I did small pro boxing.
Okay.
But I have a pressure from my family. Who doesn't want me to box?
Why?
Well, my uncle that I'm talking about, who is a boxer, they don't see him bringing anything out of boxing. So why am I following? I'm also
your uncle,
yeah. So, but I feel it, and when I go out there, I was training. I was part of the up and coming juvenile boxers at that time, and I used to do sparring with some of the great boxers like a whole lot of Obite, even though they are bigger, they put we the small boys by putting some hope in us.
Okay.
So through that, I became a boxer, and then I was in the national team as well.
Okay.
But I didn't get a chance of going to make laurels like people have done.
Yeah.
But mine was that I realized that I get into boxing, true boxing, rather for coaching, because I became a bigger coach instead of a bigger boxer.
At what point did you realize that you could be a coach instead of pursuing the fighting itself?
Yeah, I was doing boxing okay, but as I said, my family were giving some pressure. And so I was doing boxing, hide and seek. Sometimes I go to the gym and I don't want, if I had some small this thing on my face, I have to hide, and I don't want anybody to see some of the injuries because they will talk about it. And I was thinking of stopping boxing because of the pressure. And then my coach, Surprise Asoa, is one of the great coaches Ghana has had. I think the source was where Atukwe Klote, who trains Azuma Nelson. Yeah. So I was having the same link with Azuma Nelson from a different angle, because Azuma Nelson coach was a coach of my coach.
You see, so there was that kind of a network.
Family. Yes. So through that, when I was looking like stopping, and then my coach Soratasua told me, no, you can't stop. You have learned a whole lot of boxing, and he loved me a lot. He trusts me, and he was predicting something big for me in boxing, because at that time he gave me the chance of doing coaching at the gym.
Okay.
Even though I was a boxer, he allowed me to coach, and during that time he told me I would be great in boxing, but specifically, he didn't specify whether through
punching people or coaching people to punch
coaching people. You see, but later on, I realized that what he was saying was true, but it was in the coaching, and because I for coaching, you know, I've been all over the place.
Oh, yes.
I've been to all the championship in the world, the Commonwealth, Olympics, World Championship, any of them, and I've won numerous medals. I have about 100 and something plus medals for the country.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was the only indigenous coach who was able to bring medal at the Olympic level with Samuel Techi within 49 years.
That was in 2021.
Yeah, recently. And at the Commonwealth level, and I was part of the team even who won gold with Raymond.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of achievement in coaching, a whole lot. And I've been to the places where boxing is doing well, like Cuba, America, Russia, Italy, all those places where boxing is doing well. I've been there and I've seen what boxing is doing. I've been to the training programs as well. And I am an international instructor. I train coaches all over the world. I even train coaches from Cuba and the whole everywhere. So it's like, yeah. And even now I am one of the African Coaches Commission member.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm also international instructor, as I told you.
So you are bringing something to the house, more unlike what your uncle was doing.
Yeah. So I realized that I'm talented in coaching. I've produced a whole lot of boxers, and I've been able to make some marks as well. Boxer like Basti Samer was my boxer, was able to come and surprise Buko Banku. Yes, and I remember some time far back, I was the one who brought Gideon Ano to come and beat Africa. He was a world champion at that time in Ghana. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So in terms of doing something at the local and international, I've gone through it, and I've won. I've had award also at the Sports Writers, that Swag Award, Dedication and Valor, as well as Best Coach for some of the years. So when you talk about coaching,
you've seen it all.
I think,
You've seen it all. But coach, there's one thing that I want to understand. People often see. I mean, please put on your gloves and show me something. Your gloves. Way too quick.
Yeah, I'll put on something.
Yes, just a moment.
Yeah.
I want you to show me something, coach. I want to throw a punch.
A punch?
Yes, I want to throw a punch.
Yeah, you can throw.
So this is what I want to get. People often see the punches that we throw. So how do you coach someone who just throws punches? How do you do it? How is it done?
Well, coaching is a big subject that
because sometimes I see you throw a point and the person will dodge like this.
It goes through a whole lot of, that's what I'm saying, it's a very big program. When you are coaching somebody, it's not just by throwing the hands, you teach him a whole lot of things. The technical aspect, the tactical aspect, the even physiological aspect, as well as psychological aspect as well. So you, being a coach, you need to have that background, that foundation, to be able to impart into the boxer. So you train the boxer by getting a whole lot of information which you need to expose the boxer to. And that make the boxer naturally good. So coaching, you need to have a knowledge, a big knowledge. You need even to have the understanding.
So how do you defend? Sometimes they say you need to have a very good day. Is it about just covering your face like this?
Yeah, that is why I was saying that the technical aspect, tactical aspect. When you are teaching the boxer, you teach him how to throw punches. You teach him also how to defend the punches as well. You teach him by defending the punches by using the body, slipping, stepping back, weaving, bobbing. There are a whole lot of it in the defensive move,
so how should I throw
even
my punch?
Blocking.
Right now, how should I throw my punch?
Throwing your punch, if you want to go through the proper training program, then you have to learn the punch. You see it, people throwing punch up there, but start from the leg, and from the leg,
from where?
The legs, and you have to learn how to even stand,
we use the legs to kick. How do I start?
For instance, as I'm standing like this, I have a good balance like this.
Oh, okay.
And if I wanted to jab, you see where it comes from. All comes from the leg.
Oh, okay.
So if you do something like this, it's from the leg. If you do something like this, it's from the leg.
So when I'm shooting, I should do this.
Having a big punch, when you are learning, you go through all those things, and you see a boxer throwing, but he has a whole lot of something working in the system. And so it's not something that you can just teach. It takes it takes about 10 to 15 years to be able to make a world champion.
What?
Yeah, because he has to start from the grassroots. You have to train that person to be exposed into so many things. before getting to the age of 15, 20, then that person, yeah. So when you learn on the surface, there are so many things that you lack. That's why it's very difficult to train a boxer who is already grown, you see. But when you are training from the grassroots, so you see my interest is most at the grassroots, the amateur level. That is where you can build a proper and a very good boxer.
You've been with the Black Mummers for a very long time. You've always been that man. Anytime we needed to lead our national team, you are always a man in there to lead the boys, to go out there and do raise high the flag of the country. When was your first competition that you led Ghana as a coach to?
Well, my first competition was a qualification, a competition which is it was a preparation competition and then a qualification tournament to 96 the Olympics.
96 Olympics.
Yeah, I think by then
that would be some 24 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 27.
That time, I had opportunity because I have a whole lot of boxers in the national team. But then I was a club coach, and I was training. I've been to a lot of coaching courses and this thing. So there was a Cuban coach who came to Ghana.
Okay.
And he's called Miguel Perez.
Okay.
That coach is called Miguel Perez. Miguel Perez was the one who discovered me from the club level, and then he calls me into the national team. He said, I want to work with this coach. So at that time, the federation members have nothing to say than to accept me into the national team. So I was with the Cuban coach, learning the Cuban style as well. After learning a whole lot of Ghana, we have a different style of coaching. We have the Makoni way, Sparta, and a whole lot of them. But I was able to add, Makoni, Sparta.
What is that one? What is Makoni?
That is I'm talking about style.
A style of fighting.
Yeah, style of fighting. There are some gyms that they have a style of aggressive, putting more pressure.
Okay.
And they have other style that they do. They are more tactical. They use more of the antics. They move around to do that. So I was able to be blessed to work with a coach like Coach Agbana, Coach Surprise Asoa, and then a whole lot of coaches. I can't mention everybody's name.
So you came through the ropes. You learned from the best.
Yes. And surprisingly, I had a chance to go to Hungary to do my specialization, coaching, coach's diploma. I also get a chance to go to Cuba as well to learn. Get a chance to go to Italy, Assis, also to develop my coaching career there. So there are a whole lot of training programs that I've gone through, and that is what made me who I am now. So,
I see. So that 1996 competition that you went to, how was the experience like? And that is the genesis of you being one of the top coaches.
I think I was in the training camp, and the federation members, we have to go to Togo first. That is Lamakara. Lamakara in Togo. Yeah.
Is it a French language or what?
No, it's a place. The name of some of the cities in Togo. That is where at that time I learned the President Yadema is from. So we have to go there, and I don't have passport at that time. So I was in the camp, and then I was doing my own way of getting passport. And I got my passport, and I put it inside my bag. So the day that they are traveling, nobody knows that I have passport. So when the federation members came, they said, we are going to Togo today. Do you have a passport? And I said, yes, I have passport. That was my lucky aspect of me.
So if you didn't have a passport, you wouldn't have?
Yes. So that is the reason why I always have that in my mind. That it was the beginning. And so when we went to Lamakara, the coaching, the bosses also loved my coaching, and we were able to win very, very well. I think we won the tournament there, and then we, from there, that was a preparation tournament. From there, we went to how do you call it? We went to the qualification at Tunisia, and we were able to qualify. I think 3 boxers there. That was Tijani Moro, Alfred Tete, then Ashakwe Ai, who happened to be my own boxer. Ashakwe Ai. And then by then, there's one boxer who has qualified already, who is called Ilaidi Alasa. So we were able to have 4 boxers qualify. That was Atlanta 96 Olympics. Atlanta 96 Olympics. Yes. And what happened was that I was part of the team. We prepared everything. But the day that we were going, I was dropped. Going to the Atlanta 96 Olympics. Even though I've been through the tournament, the qualification, we've qualified the boxers and everything, I was dropped. And it's very, very sad.
Why were you dropped?
Yeah, I don't know. There was a number, a quota, maybe the quota, and they have to go with only one coach. And even the boxers protest against this because I was the only coach who can speak their local dialect as well as speak English, and the Cuban coach at that time cannot speak
any
local language. And I was dropped, and they took the Cuban coach instead.
How disappointing was it?
Yeah, it's sad because by then I was thinking of, that is where I was thinking of winning medal for my country at the Olympics, because it has been a long time. But I didn't get that chance. That maybe I would say it's not yet that time. So I was dropped. I took it in good faith, and we continue. After that, I was able to go to Sydney 2000. Sydney 2000 was my first Olympics. And then from Sydney 2000, we qualified also again to go to Athens. But it was
2004.
Yeah, that was we had 2 wild cards. That is, we didn't qualify actually in the tournament, but we won 2 bronze, and the 2 bronze we were considered to go with wild card. And by then I have a very good chairman, but he thinks that with 2 wild cards we don't deserve to go to the Olympics at that time, because he thinks if we are not able to win anything at Africa and we are going to the Olympics, what are we going to do there? Yeah, so it was the chairman himself who said.
Who was the chairman then?
By then it was Eddie Duplan. He was a good chairman. Through him, I had opportunity to go to Hungary, because he was the one who did everything, because he saw the talent in me as a coach, and he realized that I need to go through training programs to develop myself. And so that I can also not forget that. I had a chance to develop myself as a coach. And then from there, I had another opportunity to go to Olympics Games, as Beijing.
2008.
Yes, Beijing. That was where Manu Planche, Bastille Samet, I was able to go to.
That was your group.
Yes, that was their group. So I was part of, and I was the coach together with a new Cuban coach. That team also, it pains me a lot we couldn't win medal, because we were having very, very good boxers, Bastille Samet, Manu Planche, Octopus, Gianni. I think we qualified a bigger number, about 6 boxers to the Olympics. And we went there, and I was always remembering that, because at that time, when we went there, I lost control, because I don't know, but in some way, when we reached there, I don't know if it is my opinion, it is like the boxers lost control. Because
how do you lose control of the boxers?
Yeah, because I wasn't the head coach, and when I was trying to put some measures to be able to control them, it became a confusion between me and the head coach, because he think I should leave them. You see?
But you're supposed to work together as a team.
Yeah, we were working together as a team.
Yeah.
But he is seeing it from a different angle. But Ghana is not like Cuba at that time. You know, the people are themselves disciplined. But our people, you need to put the discipline into them.
You need to tell them, hey,
yeah,
don't
sit
do
down, don't go. Yeah. So when you give them freedom, they mess up. You see the whole thing. So even though they were very good boxers, but we lost because they lost control. Some of the time, I would see them going to shopping. The time that they need to concentrate, they need to focus. It was very painful to my heart at that time. But there's nothing I can do. But from there, we got another opportunity to go to London 2012. That was the one I had with Isaac Dogbe, Suleiman Utete, and Aponsa, Maxwell Aponsa. That was their group. And even that time, the whole Olympics, we had about only 9, the whole Ghana, we had about only 9 boxers who qualified to the Olympics. And I qualified 4 boxers out of the 9, a whole 9 team going to the Olympics. I qualified 4. That means 9 athletes, I qualified 4. One, I think weightlifting also had 1, and then some other disciplines, athletics. But I was having 4 boxers who qualified for the Olympics. And we won some fights at the Olympics, we couldn't get into the medal zone. And then I have to come back again.
And build for the 2016 Olympics. Wahid Umar, that's your group.
Yeah. Wahid Umar was my personal boxer.
Okay.
He was the only boxer who qualified to 2016 Olympics.
Yeah, I remember.
And then I was dropped again. I was taken out from the team when we had a new chairman. The new chairman. That was
Peter Zwanes?
No, Gideon Quarty.
Gideon Quarty, yes. Gideon Quarty, yes.
Yeah, because we were not having a good relationship because he think I didn't support him at the time of the election. You see?
This politics is everywhere.
Yeah. So it wasn't working with me, but I was still around supporting, and I couldn't get the chance to go to the 2016 Olympics. Yeah. So later on, he settled matters with me, and he called me back, and then we start training. And then all of a sudden, it's a sad thing because it pains me a lot that when we started working together, that was the time rather he died.
Yeah.
And it was very.
It was 2017. I remember so well.
Yeah. It was very painful to me because now we are gaining some trust and a good relationship, and it was sad that death has to come and take him away. And then, well, I never give up. I still work hard, and then we qualify again. I qualified 3 boxers again to just Tokyo. And then I know Tokyo was one of the countries that Ghana won Olympics medal.
Yeah.
That was so. I was So I was determined. That was a delay. I was determined that at least I should be able to repeat that history.
Yeah.
And truly, it happens. And that was Samuel Techi.
Yeah.
Yes. And we did it, and it was a very good thing. But as for Commonwealth, numerous have been there.
Many times. If you just joined us, we are speaking to Coach Ofori-Asare, Black Moments coach, one man who has seen it all when it comes to grooming boxing talents in the country. He's such a huge figure. You cannot talk about Ghana boxing history in terms of participating in major competition. Like you heard from him, talk about going to the Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games many times, many world championships and all that. He's our guest here on Prime Take. Coach, let's go back to the 2012 Olympic Games. There are always so many conflicting stories about the 2012 Olympics that has to do with Isaac Dogbe. Did you have any kind of differences with Isaac Dogbe in the 2012 Olympics?
No. Isaac Dogbe, I was with Isaac Dogbe. I qualified him to the Olympics, and we went to the Olympics. It was a very, after the 2012, 2016, there was a whole lot of judges were disqualified, sacked.
Yes.
You know about that, yes. Something happened at the 2012 Olympics, because Isaac Dogbe, who have win medal at that games.
Yeah.
We were doing the fight and he was leading. I think first, second, he was leading. And then all of a sudden, the last round, before the verdict came out, Isaac Dogbe lost. And at that time, they put some measures, like if you have to even protest, you have to pay some amount of
like some $100 or something like that.
Yeah, I think no, $500.
$500?
Yeah.
That's too huge.
Yeah, and paying to and sometimes too, you are not too sure about whether they will do it for you, and we are also not prepared in terms of
such things.
Set things, and it's sad to me because I believe as if Dogbe could have won a medal at that time, but at that time there are a whole lot of I don't know, the judging, the officiating wasn't, and I think that has been the reason why the International Olympic Committee has been at the head of the IBA.
Yeah.
That is the boxing. So there was a whole lot of this thing. So we take it as it is. There is nothing we can do. But when we came back, we are thinking that Isaac Dogbe will stay for because he was the youngest
within
the group at that time. But he also has his ambition. He also want to do something for himself. And he and his father, they choose to go to professional.
Yeah.
And I think it was between them and the then chairman, Mr. Ray Kwaku. Mr. Ray Kwaku wasn't happy about them going to professional, but they wanted to go to professional. And there is nothing
anyone can do
about it.
It's a decision of the coach.
Yeah,
the boxer and his father. So.
Yeah, and the father was also a coach. You see.
Yes.
So me, I don't have any problem with Isaac Dogbe, but if they are going to professional, what can I do?
You can't do anything about it. It is not your thing to do.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with me as well. And I'm okay with them. Both, anytime we meet, we are okay. Sometimes even when he comes to Ghana, he comes to me. And I even train him sometimes. Even when he come and he wanted me to train him.
This gym?
Yes. No, he hasn't trained here before, but I've trained him at the Bokum Boxing Arena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And sometimes he comes to this gym to advise the young boxers here. So I don't have any problem with Isaac Dogbe.
No problem with Isaac Dogbe. But how proud are you seeing the way he has risen up? He went all the way to become a world champion, and there's an opportunity for him to be a two-time world champion.
Yeah. Why not? Because he's also my product as well.
Yeah.
For being the coach who qualified him to the Olympics and coming out to become a world champion. You see, most of the time they say that when you have a good amateur, then you can make it to the world level.
Yeah.
You see, and I'm glad that a boxer who passed through my hands in the national team was able to become a world champion, and also getting the opportunity to win a world title again, which I believe it can happen because he's a very dedicated boxer. He worked very hard, and the coaches who are training him are also, I cannot say they are very good coaches because since they took him here, there has been some fights, and he has been able to stay true. So why not? I always wish him well because his victory is my victory as well. Because anytime he wins something in my heart, I'm happy.
You're gladdened.
Yeah. I've been with him in a camp. I've been with him the same camp in I think Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
We were there for about 2 months, staying in the same place.
Oh, okay.
We've been in Accra in some camp for many months together. We lived together. Even when we went to camp in Wales, that is where I first met the dad.
Oh, okay.
The dad came to camp, and I allow him into the camp because we are in good relation. So I allow him to come to camp, also come to support his son in terms of adding
some knowledge
to him. So we weren't having any bad blood, and anytime we meet, we talk. But it's like he has his own program.
Yeah.
And even to me, I wasn't happy that he's not part of the Isaac coaching team now.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't happy because I think he has something also to push. To offer. He has something also to offer. And he has a different spirit that he used to support the boy. In terms of, he has some command that is also sometimes necessary when you reach some level. But, well, a lot of people also don't like the idea of his father being around me. But to me, I'm okay with that. That's why even when we were in the Olympic training camp, I allowed him to come and join us, and then we work as a team.
Okay. So talk to me briefly about the Olympic Games in Tokyo. At that point, when it was guaranteed that for the first time in over 40 years, Ghana was lifting a medal in the boxing category, and the man who did it was you. How was the feeling like?
Yeah, I feel great at that time, and even though I was the head coach, I think I have a whole lot of dedicated assistant coaches in the person of Akai was my assistant coach, and he's very dedicated because whenever I ask him to do something, it's not easy to be a successful head coach. You need to have a very
good backroom staff.
So I think I also thank him as well because he also played a very big role. And then even when we were in Ghana, there are a whole lot of coaches who also we were working together. And even at the club level, club coaches also, some of them also did very well. But at the campaign, I was determined that we should win the medal. And Samuel Techi also has the connection with me. And he was also determined, thinking that he can do something. So that brought us together. And it's like, it's become a very good team. And anything I tell him, he take it very serious. And we were able to say true, to break that jinx, to be able to bring Olympic medal again to the country. You know, you have only 4 medals for the whole country, and Boston has 3 of it, which is Eddie Blay. Even now it's 4. Eddie Blay, Prince Amate, Aikwote Senior, and then Samuel Techi now. By then it was only 3, and I was determined that we must add something to it. And sometimes I don't understand why it has been so long, and Ghana, we see ourselves for producing 10 world champions. So most of our boxers...
Is that something we are not doing right?
Most of our boxers were able to prove it at the world level. And in many countries, they do it from the amateur before doing it at the professional level.
My dear people of Ghana, welcome back on the AM show. Time now for me to share with you my blunt thoughts. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and this morning I've titled my blunt thoughts, Beautiful Tombs, Ugly Bones, the Cosmetics of Our Failed Leadership. Beautiful tombs, ugly bones, the cosmetics of our failed leadership. A lot of the time I contemplate Ghana and my heart bleeds. My heart bleeds on the back of the many wrongs, the many ills that go on in this country. There are good things, yes, but the rot going on, the failure of leadership is something that all of us ought to be concerned about. While putting together my thoughts for my blunt thoughts today, I contemplated once more that passage of the Bible where it talks about the Pharisees and other Jewish leaders of Jesus' time. It kind of reminded me of the trend of leadership that we've been encumbered with in this Fourth Republic, especially under this particular administration. They are elegant, glamorous with words, but when it comes to delivery, it is nothing to write home about. Let's go to Matthew chapter 23, verse 27, and you'll understand better what I'm talking about. It's right behind me. There it is written, "What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but filled on the inside with dead people's bones and all sorts of impurity." Reflect on that. That is what a lot of our leaders look like. Outside, glamorous talk. They pay lip service to our needs, but when push comes to shove, they capitulate and they leave us hanging. I'll be talking about Galamsey, Green Ghana, and the happiness index. But even as I get into that, I cannot forget that story about a little girl, 7 months old, right here in Ghana. On World Water Day, we spoke about her. Someone has died. Another person is in critical condition. In fact, many people. But this girl's story hit me because she's only 7 months old. And you know what? She's already passing kidney stones. 7 months old. Months, not years, 7 months. And she's passing kidney stones because our system has failed her. In that community, they do not have access to potable drinking water. And so that is her situation. We've condemned her right from birth. This is Ghana at 66. Ghana, come with me. There are other things I want us to quickly look at as we go back to our slides. Let's move on to the next slide. I want you to contemplate this. On the Obuasi Road, this is what happened recently. An unemployed pregnant woman was filling potholes to raise money to start a business. Unemployed, pregnant, no means of sustenance, and she was filling potholes on the road. The same roads, I guess, Mr. President has been speaking about, just to earn some money. Let's go to the next slide as we contemplate Galamsey and road construction and all of that. Government has built more roads than any government in the history of the Fourth Republic. You see it in quotation marks because it is Mr. President who said that. That's why his picture is attached. A large amount of the money we borrowed are for road construction. Wow. I don't know, that pregnant woman obviously hasn't seen that sort of development on that stretch in Obuasi. And that, by the way, is a mining town, a mining community. Let's go to the next slide. Let's also contemplate what Professor Frimpong Boateng has been saying about Galamsey. You remember him? In recent times, he's been pretty vocal. He says, "Let me tell you that I did not take one excavator for anything. They know the truth." Who are they? We'll find out. Now, things are coming up. We know those who are behind it and the party people who are there, people in government, including the Jubilee House, who are doing Galamsey and so on, even now. Next slide. And then we see the response. Trademark. The president tasked the police to investigate allegations by the former Minister of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation regarding the seat of government's involvement in illegal mining. What does the next slide say? Let's quickly get to that one. But we've heard from Member of Parliament for Wilsa South, Clement Apak, who says, "I worry that this call for the CID to conduct this investigation could be a plot to clear yet again persons in government from wrongdoing. And in the past, we have seen exactly that happen. It's become a sort of fun belt. Clear, clear, clear. Let's see whether this time the Member of Parliament for Wilsa South will be proved wrong. Let's go to the next slide. Now, if you look at some officials at the presidency currently involved in Galamsey, or as the picture has been painted, COCOBOD has indicated that it will need the support of security services to halt the devastating effect of illegal mining, also known as Galamsey, on the cultivation of the crop. The EU has already warned that it may be forced to boycott the purchase of Ghana's cocoa if deforestation and illegal mining of cocoa farmers are not stopped. That is where we are, Ghana 4. We're even getting threatened by our buyers. And yes, they can afford to do that because we are at their beck and call, because we've not added any value to our products. And so when they threaten, we must listen. But even then, look at what Galamsey is doing, not just to our water bodies, to our land resources as well. Pollution. Let's go to the next slide. Now, if you consider in mitigating the situation, we've embarked on the Green Ghana project and all of that. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. Guess what? 9 months ago, we had this headline, Green Ghana project, 20 million trees to be planted today. We celebrated it, we were happy and all of that. But today's headlines, in recent times, goats and ponche ate seedlings planted under Green Ghana project because they were not protected. That's an elderly friend of mine, Awula Sewa. She's an environmentalist. So wait, we expended money, and we'll get to the figures shortly. We expended money on this project. And in some areas, in some cases, we couldn't even protect the seedlings. We had procured with taxpayers' money, and they got eaten by goats. Let's go to the next slide. In fact, in the end, touching on the Green Ghana project, we planted some 7 million trees in 2021, 80% of which have survived and are doing very well. I recall listening to Mr. President standing on the day saying this. And I asked myself, where did he get the figures from? Who gave him the figures? The lands minister? Or was it the deputy? Was it Owusubio who gave him the figures? We'll track this and find out whether indeed 80% of them survived after the goats had a field day. Let's get into the other factors in terms of cost. Benito Owusubio, Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, has been telling us that, guess what? We expended 9.6 million. That was what was budgeted for 20 million seedlings in 2022. 9.6 million. Keep that in mind. But when we go to the next slide, you will actually find out what we actually owe. And this is because in recent times, we have had some people come out and say, we're owed money, we've not been paid, what's the situation? What we actually owe our seedling providers is an amount of 28 million Ghana cedis, which will soon be cleared. So 9 million, which we expended. Where does this figure come from, though? 28 million Ghana cedis. And if we're spending all of this money, 28 million Ghana cedis, do you know what that could do? What do we have to show? To show the ordinary Ghanaian taxpayer who is feeling the brunt of the economy that, look, your 28 million Ghana cedis went into this specifically. This will be the aggregate benefit to your community, to our society, to our country in general. Who is taking that on? Let's go to the next slide. Now, this is where I get a bit curious. As I look at the World Happiness Index, and there's a reason I'm bringing it up, it is very little surprise that Ghana has been dropping. In fact, this report is put together by the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. And in our ranking, we have dropped from 111th in 2022. In fact, from 95th in 2021. And now we rank 111th. Let's go to the details so you get exactly what is happening here. Now, if you look at the current ranking, the first placed country, Mauritius, is 52nd. In fact, there's no African country in the top 50. So Mauritius ranks 52nd. Can you imagine this? Libya is second. Côte d'Ivoire. We like talking about, oh, and we are doing better than Côte d'Ivoire. They are far better than we are. South Africa, Algeria, Liberia with all its woes. Senegal. Look at the West African sub-region. Cameroon is out. Senegal. Look at Gabon. Guinea. In fact, not war-torn, but coup-ravaged Burkina Faso. We're ahead of them. Benin, Comoros, and Uganda. We've dropped from 95th to 111th. And no surprise. Look at the exchange rate. Still. Look at the inflationary rate. The Bank of Ghana has increased its policy rate by another 150 basis points, bringing the total to 29.5%. What do you think that would do? What do you think that would do to ordinary people? I'm not saying it's an entirely wrong move, but what do you think that does to us in the midst of all of this? Fuel prices are still high. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the World Happiness Index looks at GDP per capita, social support. What's your GDP per capita? You know what it is. Social support, practically non-existent in Ghana. Healthy life expectancy at birth. I told you of that 7-month-old baby who is passing kidney stones. 7 months. We've condemned her. Through no fault of hers. Freedom to make life choices. Generosity, perception of corruption. And as for this one, I don't even need to talk plenty. Manu Bukiti, let's go to the next slide. Now, to wrap it all, government, upon all of what I've been speaking about, is hoping to pass these 3 bills. And we know today the Parliament will go on recess. Whether they're going to be able to pass this today, no one knows. But everyone I've spoken to, from economists to the business community to the Chamber of Commerce to Guta, are saying this will only literally hang us. Lau, if you add these. So we are hoping to add some 3.8 billion, almost 4 billion. Income tax amendment, 1.2 billion. Excise duty, the amended bill, 400 million. The growth and sustainability amendment bill, 2.2 billion. That is where we find ourselves as a country. As I end, it is no surprise that we are falling on the happiness index. It is no surprise at all. No wonder. But I have a word or two for our leaders, or should I say our misleaders in this country, who have left us where we are. Despite all the boons, natural, human resource that we have, we're still in the pit of poverty. We're grinding. Our leaders ought to be ashamed of themselves. I'm saying it. Many of them. I'll leave you with 2 quotes as I conclude. One that I found out only yesterday, and it hit me so hard. The other one I've known for years. I want our leaders, our misleaders, to contemplate these 2, especially those who have amassed wealth on the back of the sweat, the blood of the ordinary Ghanaian, who cannot afford the luxuries that they take for granted. One is by Dr. Mizamo Masito, who says, "The poor do not sleep because they are hungry, and the rich cannot sleep because the poor are awake." Think of that. The poor do not sleep because they are hungry. And the rich cannot sleep because the poor are awake. They've amassed everything, and now they can't even shut their eyes because they are wondering whether the poor will come and rob them. Create a just society, and you will not need to do that. The second quote, putting the matter differently. It's something I came upon many years ago. It says, "One day, the poor will have nothing left to eat but the rich." One day, the poor will have nothing left to eat but the rich. We saw it in Sri Lanka when they pounced on leaders. I'm not saying we should do that, but where we are headed in this country, it clearly is the wrong direction. You can choose to be partisan and say it is not, but we all know where we're headed in this country. And something must be done to turn the ship around. And it's not the IMF deal that will get us there. Those are just shenanigans. To such people who are in office, those who are not tainted, those who have not sullied themselves, you're good to go. But those who have ridden on the back of the sweat, the blood, the toil, the labor, the tears of the ordinary Ghanaian, and are still robbing us without providing for us, I say, if you do not create the society we all want, someday some people will come to you and take away everything you think you have, everything you love, everything you have stolen from the poor, you will vomit forth. Ghana for Manoesi. I say all of these things because I love, deep down, the red, gold, green, and black of Ghana. I love my motherland. I don't have any other one. This is what I stand for. And I share these blunt thoughts with you this morning, raw, hot, undiluted, unedited, in the hope that our leaders will listen and that Ghana someday will be that land flowing with milk and honey, a better place for us all, not just for me, for that 7-month-old baby who is passing kidney stones because as of today, she doesn't have access to potable water. God richly bless Ghana and make her great and strong. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And after the hot one, my blunt thoughts, let's get into some other critical stories. We start talking about the Ghana Airways, rhetoric that has been spewed in recent times by Transport Minister Kweku Ofori-Esiamba. He has revealed that Ghana Airways will be back sometime between June and July this year. There's been talk about it. We've heard snippets of that from time to time, but what is the reality? And like I mentioned while I was introducing the show this morning, some have poo-pooed the idea and said that, look, we don't even need a national carrier. That we've had myriad experiences with a national carrier, and that the cost involved, the other dynamics that we've not dealt with, could mean going down that same rabbit hole one more time at the expense of the ordinary taxpayer. But some have said it is a matter of pride. It is something that we can beat our chests and say, we too have XYZ. We have a national carrier. There are so many different dynamics to this conversation. Well, this morning we host our guests to get into the nitty-gritty, the reality of this situation in terms of cost, in terms of execution, in terms of the past, and in terms of what lessons we may have learned for the future. Joining us for the conversation, we have Isaac Kofi-Adjei. He is a data analyst. He will be giving us some scope on that situation. Dr. Yakubu Akparebo is an aviation expert. And we also have Captain Michael Foley, retired international airline pilot with 40 years of flying experience. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and good morning to your listeners.
Who am I hearing from for now?
This is Dr. Akparebo.
Okay. I also see Captain Foley.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good to have you. You know, at a point when I was a child, they used to call me Captain because I thought I would become an airline pilot, and I deviated. But you could say that I'm also serving Mother Ghana, so I doff my hat to you, sir.
You probably chose a better job.
You get the air miles, and we do that on the ground. Do we have Isaac Kofi-Adjei? All right, I would have wanted to start off the conversation with him, but as and when we get him, we'll take matters from there. I'll start with you, Captain Foley. Knowing what you do, 40 years of experience, knowing what you do, having gone through the system, with everything you've experienced, what would you say about experimenting again with a national airline? How relevant is it?
Well, I don't think this nation, or indeed any private investor, would like to experiment in running an airline. If our history is anything to go by, we must learn lessons from the demise of Ghana Airways and also Ghana International Airlines. Running an airline is very expensive and it's risky cost-wise. I remember a time ago, Richard Branson, Virgin Atlantic guy, he was interviewed and he was asked, how do you become a millionaire? His answer was, you start with being a billionaire, then you set up an airline, then you become a millionaire. Now that illustrates how risky airline operation is. So we are not, I don't think we are in a position to experiment in forming an airline. If the nation wants to start an airline, we must tread cautiously. And the model that I am hearing now does not give me hope. So I think this will just be my introductory comments, and then maybe we can go.
Trajectory on which to start your introduction. But when you look at the module, the information you have now, what can you, I just want you to delve a little deeper before I move on to Doc as well. What do you know?
Okay, now what I'm hearing is the government is, or the minister is excitedly talking about starting a new airline. It's being called Ghana Airline, which means it's going to be a national airline. Now, from what I know about starting an airline, the requirements of civil aviation, you have to satisfy civil aviation with a few things. The equipment you're going to use your financial basis for starting an airline, the crew training facility, the aircraft maintenance facility. So you have to present a business plan, no, feasibility studies first, then a business plan. Then they give you an ACL, air carriers license. Somewhere along the line, then you'll be issued an AOC. Of course, the state system, there'll also be a security check on the company, just to make sure that the source of income is clean and is sustainable. So now, I've had this excitement about starting an airline, and it worries me for a few reasons. Now, I understand what they want to do is they're going to start with local and then regional flights. It's going to put the existing domestic operators at a bigger disadvantage. Now, they have been plowing the ground now on their own, and 2 of them are still surviving. Then suddenly, the government is going to encourage or support or sponsor another airline to enter the same field. Straight away, the playing field is going to be very uneven. It might drive these guys out of business. So the government, if I had my way, if I have to advise the government, if a private individual wants to set up an airline, the government should not put a single cent into it. The government should stay away. Let these guys, Ashanti Airline, understand, Soto's company, let them start the domestic airline. When they have proven their mettle, when the government is convinced that they can operate successfully and profitably, then when the need arises, then the government may, depending on the financial situation of the country, invest in it. So the model that they are starting with, yes, they have to start on domestic routes and the regional routes, but the government must not play any part at all at this stage. This is what, you see, in Nigeria right now, there is a battle going on next door. Nigeria wants to start an airline. The airline operators of Nigeria have taken the government to court because they said the playing field is not level. This new airline is going to be given certain concessions which they don't have, the local airlines don't have. Now, the Nigerian government is also putting up a defense. The Nigerian government said, local airlines, we invited you to buy shares in this new airline, and you did not participate. So my question is, has the government offered local airlines, I think there are only 2 now, Power and Passion Air, has the government invited these 2 airlines who have already been in operation against great odds, they are surviving? Has the government invited them to join in forming a national airline? So we must consider this very carefully. The only stage at which the government can intervene or join is if the government thinks that we must fly international routes. Then again, because the taxpayers' money is at risk, now we cannot be experimenting with investments in this country. Then the government can accept this airline as a flag carrier, which is a technical term, as a flag carrier, but not a national airline. In other words, it will fly the flag of Ghana, but again, because of our financial constraints, the government must be careful what money should put in. We must learn our lessons. We've been away from the airline business for 19 years or so. The aviation world has moved fast. Now there are so many players that have joined the market out of Accra that joining, forming a national airline, we must try very carefully. That is what I think.
We must tread very cautiously. Let me bring in Dr. Akparibo. And the reality is that Ghana Airlines or Ghana Airways went under in 2010. Yeah. In 2016, there was talk about reviving it by October 2016.
2004, not 2010.
Well, I'm talking about, so 2004, there were issues. In 2010, there was something running, wasn't there? It wasn't totally...
Ghana was 2004, and Ghana International was set.
International.
Yeah. Right. So all the way from 2004 till now, we have struggled to get back on our feet. In 2016, there was a project to revive it. That did not really, see the light of day. And now in 2023, we're trying to go back down that road. For you, what do you see to be the gray areas the problematic areas that we really ought to look at on the back of having a national carrier over these decades. And Nkrumah started it for us with the Ghana Airways Corporation. And we've hobbled through ever since. What's your take?
Yeah. So, like Captain made in his introductory remarks, in modern day aviation, government should not have a role in managing airlines. If you look in Africa now, South African Airways, which used to be government owned, it went bankrupt. Kenyan Airways is struggling. The only one that is doing better now is Ethiopian Airlines. You know, so government, to me, should not have a key role in managing an airline. Now, this agreement, I'm made to understand that government will not put in any investment in the establishment of this new airline, one, and then two, government is going to have about 10% stake. So I don't know if this 10% equity is going to be capital injection or what form, or whether it's going to be maybe the tax reliefs that they are going to give them, or what kind of forms. We've not been told in what way this 10% that government is going to own is going to be. So I think the main issue will be government interference, if government can stay off it. The second one too is, like Captain mentioned, is going to put pressure on the already existing domestic airlines. They are wholly private, and aviation is very much capital intensive. Safety is very paramount, and you need personnel to be trained. You need your equipment to be maintained, paying leasing for aircrafts and stuff. So it's very, very capital intensive. And if these private investors are putting their money, and then government rather tries to help like one over the other, then definitely they are going to have a competitive edge. Now, the good thing about them also coming in is that prices of airfares definitely will be affected. We may have like reduced airfares. It's not guaranteed, but that could happen. Now, the other thing is the group that is forming this new carrier, the Zotos group was incorporated in the UK in 2021. And when I checked their records, they've not had any experience in aviation, in managing any airline anywhere, and also the Ghanaian partners are also very new, so definitely.
You're talking about the Ashanti Airlines.
Yeah, that's Ashanti Airlines. That's also new. They also don't have much experience, If you come and tell me that you want to go to space, what I'll ask you is, how are you going to go? Have you been there before? How does it feel to be there?
Right.
So these are the questions that I think government should have asked this group. And when you look at the initial processes of the tender, there were very good competitors like Egypt Air. I think Ethiopian Air was also interested. And all these were.
But were you surprised none of them got their way through?
Yeah,
because these are established airlines. The airlines you're mentioning are the most established ones on the continent. Some of the most established ones.
Exactly, and Ethiopian has done something in our neighboring country. That's in Lomé. They established Aska Air, which is doing well now. Is doing the regional flights in the francophone areas, and then even they come to some of the Anglophone cities. So they have like a track record of doing something like this. And I think maybe we should have looked at companies like that. Like Captain said, you cannot experiment in this field. You need to know what you're real about from day one that you're going to start.
All right. Before I go to our data analysts, I just want to run this question by both of you. So you've spoken about unfair competition, for example, and what this could mean for the rest of the market, because it would be like handing bread with margarine to one end of the market and leaving the other to go dry without even the bread. What the dynamics would be there, only time will tell. But I just want to put this blunt question to both of you. Give me a straightforward answer. Do we need a national carrier right now? I'll start with you, Doc. Hello, Doc.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, to me, no. No,
right.
Because like I said, it doesn't make much difference. I think the market should be open to competition. Like we should allow private companies or investors, if they want to do or have own airlines, they should do. Government shouldn't have a role in it. So my straight answer is no.
And Captain Foley?
Well, the question is, do we have the funds to invest in an airline? Do we have the capacity to run an airline, even in partnership with others?
Right.
Is it in the national interest? Are we able to fund it? In the midst of this competition, like I said, after 19 years of absence from the international aviation space, we have lost a lot of ground. There is a way to do it, to get back into national airline operation. There is a way to do it. It's doable, but then your question is, do we need it? Well, that will depend on the outcome of the feasibility studies that will be conducted. Is there space for Ghana to join this international operation? Is there space? Domestically, there's a lot of space.
Right.
But internationally, is there space? Do we have the means? That is what will drive our decision whether we need an airline or not.
Captain Foley, you are being generous with political correctness. I want you to hit the nail on the head. Yes or no? You've enumerated a number of factors. When you look at them, you spoke about having the requisite funds and all of that, and even needing a national carrier in these economic dynamics and all of that. Do we need that right now?
Well, okay, let me try and broaden my answer a bit.
No, I actually want you to narrow it rather and hit the nail on the head.
We have many competent pilots, engineers, and airline personnel who are Ghanaians, who need jobs. Okay, now we have many of our pilots flying with foreign airlines. So if I have the funds, I will set up an airline. And there is a model we can use which will be attractive. So we need to get our people back. We need to create jobs. But let me repeat this. It's a very competitive field, and it must be done right if we want to do it.
Just hold for me, gentlemen, Captain and Doc. Let me bring in Isaac Ofie-Adjei. He is a researcher here with JoyNews and a data analyst. Isaac, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
Thanks for joining the conversation. It's good to have you on board. Tell me, what can you tell us about the history, the trajectory of Ghana Airlines or Ghana Airways, and some of what have been said in recent times in respect of this revival, this resurgence of our national carrier?
Well, I think the interesting thing is that about 20 years ago, when we were at the international front seeking for debt cancellation, that was when we said goodbye to Ghana Airways. And 20 years down the line, we are at the same place, looking for another bailout package, restructuring, cancellation of debt, debt forgiveness, in addition to forgiveness of sin. And we are introducing another, airline. Very, very interesting. One aspect that I saw as a result of why the Ghana Airways was actually, went out of operation was because of the high level of debt. In 2004, when we had to say goodbye to Ghana Airways, it was because we were owing so much, around $160 million that we were owing. And President Kufuor was very categorical that at that point in time, the country was HIPIC, and it was so impossible to bear a debt burden of $160 million. Plus, we ended up overstaffing the airways where it was giving us too much operational cost. And so if you look at our books, then, the state could absorb the 160 million but could not continue with the operation. So very interesting data over there that, 2 decades ago, 2 decades ago when we're actually at the international front seeking for a debt cancellation and debt forgiveness, that was when we said goodbye to Ghana Airways. And 20 years down the line, we are here saying that we are going to operationalize another airline. And we are just hoping and praying that the kind of debt trap that the Ghana Airways found itself in will not actually prevail this time around.
So interesting dynamics. Any other things you'd like us to know, Kofi, before we let go of you?
Well, it's not new. It's not new that we are having a private sector, joining. Like we are actually joining hands with the private sector to set up an airline. It happened before, the Ghana International Airways, there was a private component. So bringing in a private person is not 100% assurance that the airline is going to do well. We just have to make sure that we do not end up like the way we ended up treating Ghana Airways, where we rack up debts almost $200 million. This time around, we find ourselves in a very, very dire situation that any debt, the state will not be able to afford it. And we don't want the new Ghana Airlines to end up like all the other, state-owned enterprises where we set them up, they don't make any profit, but they end up, putting a lot of pressure on government expenditure. Mind you, currently we are hoping to fund a debt deficit of somewhere around 50 billion Ghana cedis. Any addition, we can't even bear the 50 billion. So any addition will be a great deal for the country. So we must learn our lessons and make sure that we don't end up compiling debt, and we don't also end up overstaffing the airways.
Very, very logical points you've walked us through this morning, Isaac Ofie-Adjei. Thank you so much, Ike, for always bringing us the filler, the data. He is with our research desk. He's a data analyst here at JoyNews. Gentlemen, so back to you, Captain and Doc. In fact, my good friend from Dalex Finance, the COO, Joe Jackson, on Twitter, on the 20th of December 2022, posted this. He had posted something prior. I'm trying to fish that out. But he posted, while Kenya is keen on selling its stake in its national airline, broke Ghana is setting up a new national airline. And we know Kenya Airways is one of the finest, the biggest on the continent. They are willing to sell. And we are here, according to a story by Northern Reports, they are willing to sell their stake in it, and we are now setting up. I'll go back to that question. I've forgotten which one of you said that government, I think it was Captain Foley, who said government should not put a PESWA in there, but step aside, invest only when profitability is assured. Am I right? Was that you, Captain Foley?
That's right.
Great.
That's right.
Do you share in that opinion, Doc?
Yeah, I think at this point, government should not put any investment in this airline. And even to me, even in the future, I don't think government needs to invest in an airline. They should leave it to the private sector. And
why? Why do you think that?
Because now the profit margins in aviation is very, very small. It's not like in the 80s and 70s that those days we didn't have TSA and so many safety levies and stuff. So now the profit margins are very, very small. And, if it's government owned, sometimes they probably want to use it for official trips and official travels, and they may not pay and stuff. And normally that leads to the airline being getting to more debts and eventual bankruptcy. So I think government should leave the sector to the private sector. If you look in the United States, most of the airlines are majority are owned by companies or investors. We don't have like American Airlines that we hear is not owned by the American government, So the carrier could have like the name, but then it shouldn't be government owned.
And especially when you're thinking of COVID-19 and the impact in many Asian countries, they've still not recovered fully. The numbers that were trooping to different countries, they've still not recovered. COVID-19, among others, have still left an imprint where people are not traveling as much as they were. I read stories about a lot of carriers that are no longer sustainable, so to speak. So it makes for interesting business to say that around this time, we want to go or venture into that sort of business. But coming back to you,
but just to add to that, this
right.
time there is actually a rebound of increased travel. You know, so passenger numbers have gone up.
But not the point I'm making is I agree with you, but not to pre-COVID levels in some cases. In fact, in some areas where tourism is key, they've still not bounced back as much as they wanted, and it has affected GDP and all of that. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me come to you, Captain. What does it take, really? I think this would give us a better idea. You've started already, but what does it take, really, to set up a national carrier, especially when a government, a state, is involved? What does it take? What are the elements involved? What are the processes, the international regulations, sums of money likely involved in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term? I mean, share with us what you do know.
Well, let me start by going back to the question you asked first. Do we need an airline? Just like any business, it starts with a need. Is there a market for the product? That's how you should start with. Because nobody wants to enter into any business and lose money, especially not at the time that we have all these financial constraints. The data analyst presented a wonderful picture, which is very valid in light of a government setting up and running an airline on its own. That is what Ghana Airways, that is the headwind Ghana Airways faced, and then it collapsed. Now, I believe that the government now is aware of the risks of setting up and running an airline solely by the government. That is why they are talking about bringing in private investors. That is wonderful. We have had many private airlines set up in Ghana, and that collapsed. Some collapsed very promptly, some collapsed over a period of time. We all know some of them. It only proves the fact that airline operation, and Doc repeated it after somebody raised it, and it's a well-known fact, airline operation is a risky business. Okay. So if you want to set up an airline, make sure you've done your studies, the market really exists. Have a business plan, short, medium, long term. Have the funds to support it. Right now, no nation, no country should start and run an airline on its own. It is not feasible. It is an industry that nations are running away from.
So you're saying that as of now, where we've got to in our global situation, no nation, no country should even be starting a project of, getting into a national carrier, like we see the Kenyans running away. That's what you're confirming.
Yes, it started long before COVID. Airlines, nations started washing their hands of airlines. It's only in Africa that we've had nations setting up and running airlines. Doc mentioned Kenya Airways or the tweet from, you read a tweet. Kenya Airways is, the government wants to sell its shares, all of it, 100%. Uganda Airways is also having serious problems. So Ghana should not even think of forming an airline. You see, I am surprised the enthusiasm with which the government is announcing this project is missing when it comes to assisting local airlines. Local airlines are really struggling. Now, we know that Passion Air was flying to Ho, but it stopped the operations because it was not economically viable. Yeah. No airline would like to be flying, 10 passengers per flight. There was a time when...
In fact, recently, someone on social media posted, unintentional, he got into a flight traveling to somewhere in Ghana, and guess what? He was the only person in the flight. The only person, one.
Yeah, there could be reasons.
But what he said, I mean, he knew that he was expecting to have. I mean, we don't know all the dynamics, but that was interesting, curious. The only one.
Yes, exactly. So the government should rather divert or concentrate its attention to helping domestic airlines. There was a time when domestic airlines were not being charged tax on the purchase of fuel. That's the way the government was encouraging domestic. I am not sure. I think this was during the Rawlings era or Atamis's era. But now I am told by one of these operators that they pay full tax on the fuel, and it's overburdening the operations. So the government should divert its attention or direct its attention to assisting existing domestic operators. If a private company wants to set up an airline, sure, it's an open market. Let them do it. Let the government sit back. Even the government lending its name alone to an airline is an unfair advantage. Very unfair. The government can only come in if an airline says we want to fly international routes now. Then the government needs to come in and negotiate the routes, because negotiation of routes and certain things are done at government to government level. So that's when the government will come in and negotiate and will say, listen, I've watched your track record. You're doing good business. I will assist you to get the routes. And the government may then go in and say, but what's in it for me? So it brings me back to my point. The government should not touch, invest, encourage any airline unless the government sees that that operation is profitable. And setting up a new airline is not the way to go. It is completely not the way to go. Let's look at our two surviving airlines, domestic airlines, and see how we can help them. That is my contribution.
Let me add this question right before I go back to Doc. Should we proceed with this? If we do, what should we require? What should be the stringent processes that we should require of Ashanti Airlines to sort of ensure that this doesn't turn out to be another botched project? I'm addressing that to you, Captain Foley.
Oh, well, the government should not be involved at all. Let Ashanti Airline run their routes. Let them run their routes. If they have the means, if they have the expertise, let them prove their mettle. Because nobody should stop a private airline or a private company from being established. So let them run their routes. Let them show that they have the means, they have the expertise, they have the fortitude. And then, I hope I'm making my point.
You're making the point clear, but at some point, government must lend them some support, maybe not financially, but some support in some way. What can government do in that regard?
The government can only help or should only help an airline that has proven that they can operate profitably. That should be the basic requirement.
Could you repeat that? I missed what you said.
The government should only assist an airline, whichever airline, if the airline shows that they can operate profitably. Because if Ashanti Airline starts international operation and that airline collapses, it's an embarrassment to the government and it will cost us a lot of money.
Okay.
Private investors, no private investor will put their money straight into Ashanti Airline. If you are invited today to invest in Ashanti Airlines, you will ask questions. You might like to see their track record. No bank will advance a capital to an airline unless they prove that they can pay back. The government must adopt the same process. And again, like Doc said, we are now being encumbered with serious national debt. This is not the time to experiment with anything. We must learn our lessons. And I'm sorry if I have to bring this. We have a national cathedral project that has ended badly. Right now, we have domestic structure going on. Citizens are suffering because the nation is broke. We must not throw good money after bad. That is my point. So the government should not touch any airline until there's a track record. And then the citizens of the country, whether it's Parliament or Council of Elders, should determine whether this operation is profitable enough for the nation to invest in.
We mustn't throw good money after bad. That is what sticks with me. We mustn't throw good money after bad. So as far as this is concerned, the buck stops with Ashanti Airlines. If they take on the risk, if they have the capacity, then let them go ahead. But that brings me to you, Doc. With your experience in this sector, about how much ballpark figure would it take to get the national carrier back on its feet? About how much do you suspect it would take, which we would have to look at Ashanti Airlines for and say, can you do this?
So in terms of figures, I wouldn't be able to put like an exact number to it.
That's why I'm saying ballpark figure. Ballpark figure.
Yeah,
what would be like the basis?
And that will also depend on how many aircrafts they want to lease at the beginning, like the kind of routes they want to fly, staffing and all that. So at this point, it's going to be difficult for us to give like an approximate cost, But when you look at even the bailouts that was given to some of the airlines, like British Airways, and then also the carriers in the US when the pandemic hit, they were in the millions of US dollars, So I think it's going to be a colossal sum, but at this point, I wouldn't be able to give a figure because it will depend on the kind of aircrafts they want to use initially. Are they going to get Bombardiers, Boeing, what kind of aircraft? So it's going to be difficult at this point.
And of course, we do not even know. It takes years. You have to order in advance for some of these, carriers. It takes years, whether it's from Airbus or Boeing or wherever it is that you're getting them from. So it would even mean that the process might be for the longer haul, not in the immediate term. And if that comes in, what would be the consequences or the likely, spin-off effects? And then again, another thing that comes to mind, politics. Because sometimes you may start a project like this. If another party comes into power, it becomes something else. We've seen that come to, the fore as well. What do you make of that circumstance? How can we avert any consequences down that road, Doc?
Yeah, for the political interference, it will definitely happen. We know how Ghana is if things change. So that is why I and Captain said government should stay off completely. That's the only way to cure the problem. Because once government is involved and there's change in government, then you will see that there will also be changes in the top management of the airline. And normally that's what happens. The airport company is supposed to operate as a company. It's not supposed to have government interference and stuff. But that is not the case. Whenever there's change of government, there's always change in the leadership. So, and that also happens with the national carriers that we've had. So to cure this problem is just for government to stay off. Yeah.
Is the transport minister getting all of this wrong then? I don't know what his intel is. I don't know what information he has access to. We don't know all the full details. We don't have the blueprint. Maybe they see things that we don't see. But do you suspect from where you sit, because both of you are experts in your own right, 40 years in the industry on one end, you, an analyst, an expert as far as this is concerned. Is the transport minister, do you suggest, do you suppose, getting this wrong in a way? And could we be preparing ourselves for yet another significant monetary loss with this project, especially if our state dips its hand into national coffers to support it? We don't know the full dynamics. The last time we lost $160 million. What's your take on that? I'll start with you, Doc, and put that same question to Captain as well, but I'll start with you, Doc.
Okay, so I would answer it this way. So let's say a company in Ghana goes to the UK and tells the UK government or the transport minister there that they want to set up an airline. What the minister will ask is, have you done this before? They'll look at the records of the Ghanaian company, and normally without the key thing is track record. Without that, in the advanced countries, they will never proceed with it. So I don't know what the information the transport minister got, and then what the team had to make this decision. But then mostly in a well-structured place, they'll be looking for track records, the financial muscles, and all that, before they would allow this to happen. So until we see the data that the ministry used, I wouldn't be able to say much. But then from what I see, I don't think if I were in that role, I would have made this decision.
You wouldn't venture into that. Captain Foley, you were telling me about the National Cathedral, the state of the economy. We're knocking on the doors of the IMF. Inflation is very high, the highest we've seen in over 2 decades and all of that. Do you think not the finance minister, but the transport minister could be misguided in this approach, and that we could, especially if we invested in this, be readying ourselves to get our fingers burnt?
Well, the transport minister would not have taken this decision in vacuum. Certainly, certain figures, certain documents have been presented.
Hello, Captain.
Now, when I suppose that I've seen something.
You can go ahead, Captain.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The transport minister did not arrive at this decision in a vacuum. He must have seen certain documents. The way he was excitedly announcing this shows that he has seen something. But the question is, what has been presented to him? Is that a correct document? Because, like Doc said, those behind starting this airline, and indeed any airline, must prove their track record. And what you show on paper is not the same as what they will produce in reality. That is why Ghana Civil Aviation, before they give you an AOC, or before they will require you to show proof, then they'll require you to start domestic operations to confirm that, yes, you can start doing something. Then when they are finally convinced, then they give you the AOC, also based on other determinations, security clearance and others. Now, you asked a question earlier about the cost of starting an airline.
Right.
You see, the way to start an airline, especially as a startup airline, you don't need to purchase the aircraft outright. All you have to do is lease 1 or 2 aircraft to start with. Lease the crew, which we call either wet leasing or dry leasing. Okay, you either lease the aircraft with crew already, and then you operate for a while. That helps you also to test the market. Are you going to be getting enough passengers to sustain your operation? Then when you are confident, and the civil aviation also give you a timeline. After this time, you must own your own aircraft, or you must enter into a full lease agreement with an airline. It is not always the case that airlines buy aircraft outright. There are various leasing options. So that's a way to start gradually. So the Minister for Transport has been shown something, but he should not just jump on it now and then embrace it. We must tread cautiously. And let me go back to my point. Let Ashanti and Zotos, the Zotos group, even if they pass the security clearance, let them operate and prove to you, the minister and the government, that it is worth investing in that business. That is a fundamental requirement. That should not be a political decision. That should not be a decision just to be taken out of excitement. We need proof. We need proof because we don't want to waste any more of the taxpayers' money. That is the way we should approach this business.
And of course, whether we invest any money or not, if this goes down the sink, the drain, it will be another dent on our image because it will be our national carrier. But let me just walk us through. Yes, you've mentioned the Zotos Group. They operate in the UK. They are UK owned. Even I think former footballer Emil Heskey is a shareholder. among others. Now, looking at what would pertain in the UK, it may not be the same stringent measures we may bring to bear here in Ghana, but looking at the statements that have been issued, you would realize that Emil Heskey says it is with, Zotus Group co-founder Emil Heskey commented on preparations to source aircraft for the airline's operations, He said, with a significant focus on cargo and passenger manifest from the British government. It is with this support we anticipate a successful business model from the outset. Now, this was issued in January. I do not know as yet whether they have that model that they are going to be using. So a lot is still up in the air. But I'd like to ask both of you, I'll start with you this time, Captain Foley. From what you know of Ashanti Airlines and the Zotus Group, depending on how much you know, what would you say in terms of their capacity to do this?
Well, frankly, I don't know anything about Ashanti Airlines because I've not heard an airline called Ashanti Airlines operating. So I know nothing about Ashanti Airlines.
That already paints a picture. You don't even know them.
No, I heard, these are just rumors.
Because just like you, I hadn't heard of them until all of this came up.
I haven't. Because, you see, we should talk about existing airlines. Track record. That's what Doc keeps repeating. Track record. I don't think they have any track record. So I know nothing about an airline called Ashanti Airlines. And that is the point. Nobody knows their track record as an airline. Even the financial muscle that is being put forward, nobody really knows how much it is, how it can be sustained in the long run. These are the same promises that are made to civil aviation each time an airline is going to be formed. This is the same promise that, if I try to remember, Amtrak Air, I think something 520, and all those domestic airlines that collapsed. They presented documents to show that they can sustain operations, but they folded. They collapsed. So let us not rely on documents that and promises that are made. Let them start their private airline. Let them run the airline. Let them convince us that indeed this can be sustained. Then if it is necessary, the government may buy shares in it. Track record, that is what we need now. I don't think Zotus has an airline. I don't think Zotus is an airline. They are probably financiers. And they're talking, listen, not too long ago, somebody coming from the UK asking me if I can help them set up an airline. We had a few meetings and I took them to places that I would normally not have taken them, but because of the promises they made, in the end, the whole deal collapsed. So words are sweet. Documents are put down by speculators. Let them start their airline. Let us watch them. Let us see how they progress. Then we may partner with them. The best way to do it is invite existing airlines.
Right.
And see how you can do business with them.
I'm looking at the Zotus Group online, and they talk about developmental of humanitarian projects and the infrastructure, roads, rails, airports, and ports. Then oil and gas, mining, energy, it goes on and on. When you click on infrastructure, and I'll just give you some details of what it says there. Even as it loads, though, do you share in that line of thinking? Are you curious, Doc, that we are choosing a, so to speak, previously unknown entity, and that we choose such an entity over the established ones? That's the first question. And then to wrap the conversation with both of you, because we have to go in some 2 minutes. If we're going to do this, how, for example, can we harness, I know usually these carriers would be international and all of that, but internal tourism, we have quite a gap in there. Some people will tell you if prices were cheaper and all of that. Can we have an element to it that would take advantage of that, or must it as usual, be restricted to international flights? Those two questions for both of you as we wrap.
Yeah, so I think government should rather concentrate on developing infrastructure. Like Captain mentioned, the whole airport is not used. Wa Airport is also there. Sunyani will be completed soon. These three airports are not being used, and government invested so much in this infrastructure. So they should rather give like tax rebates to the existing airlines so that it will make domestic travel cheaper. So if you need to fly to Ho and you have to pay like 50 Ghana cedis, most people prefer to do that than taking the bus. I flew on Ryanair from Stansted, UK to Memmingen in Germany, and I paid only £17. You know, so these are some of the things that government should look at to rather boost aviation instead of looking at partnering with private companies to start a national carrier.
All right.
Like you said, I was really also surprised in regards to your first question that the Zotus group was chosen, because Egypt Air and Ethiopian were very much interested in this. And I think they presented good bids. And if I were a member of the committee, I would rather look at them than Zotus Group that has no track record in aviation whatsoever. I've not seen them like have any budget airline in the UK or anywhere in this world that I would have confidence in real partnering with them. I remember the last interview that the Parliamentary Select Committee chairman gave to your network.
Right.
He said he sat in their meetings and then he listened to them and then he was convinced. I think in this kind of deals, you need to go beyond that. You don't just listen to what the person says and then take a decision. It's very, this like more of a special area. So you really need to dig deep down, know the finances of the company, the track record before awarding such a deal to them.
So we'll take the final comments from Captain Foley. That's how we'll cap off the conversation. But when I finally was able to get into their aviation bit on their website, it says Zotus Airlines has extensive, rich experience in the industry and is a reputable company with excellent relationships with leasing companies and financiers in North America, Europe, and Asia. Interesting. Not exactly detail in there. Interesting.
Yeah, but when you check
so very
UK,
briefly, very briefly, Doc.
Yeah, quick one. The house of the companies like the Registrar General equivalent of Ghana, you see that the company was registered in 2021. So a 2021 company cannot say they have extensive record in aviation.
Right. Right. Interesting point. Captain Foley, you have the final word in some 40 seconds as we wrap.
Okay. Let me just take the domestic tourism part. You see, what is happening to Ho Airport is sad. It's a big embarrassment to this nation. Ho Airport, the airline that was operating there did not find it profitable. Let me just quickly put together what you said about tourism. Ho Airport is a national gem that must be polished. Whichever airline wants to operate there must be encouraged. Doc, you took a flight for £17 because the UK government encouraged the building of regional airports to make development of regions, and they give incentives to airlines that to operate out of such regional airports. They give them incentives so that cost of travel will be lower. There's a rich tourism potential in that part of the region. I have an experience which time will not permit me to share. And I've realized that we have abandoned the whole airport to the detriment of the development of the region and the nation itself. So yes, the government should concentrate on how to make whole airport profitable for the nation so that domestic travel, tourism, development will function. And it is doable. It is doable. I have a paper on that which I might or I might not release. It's a national gem that must be polished.
Maybe you should share that with the transport minister. But gentlemen, You've added so much to our conversation, and we're immensely grateful that you took the time to be with us this morning. We were joined by Isaac Kofi-Adjei, my colleague here, data analyst, researcher with JoyNews. We also had Dr. Yakubu Akparibo, an aviation expert. Doc, I hope I didn't kill your name.
No, please, you got it right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Captain Michael Foley, retired international airline pilot with 40 years flying experience. You never know, maybe I just might learn how to fly before I leave planet Earth. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and we wish you the best of the day. That has been our conversation on a new national carrier for Ghana. The pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and the ugly is what we've been exploring here. But coming up next, we're going to be talking agriculture, and stakeholders, many of them are worried about the constant politicization of the sector. We'll be delving into that all-important issue right after the break. Do stay.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the AM show. Just gone by, my colleague Benjamin Akakpo had a discussion on a national airline. We are now zooming into the second part of our big stories, and this time round is on agriculture and the conversations around how we can harness the full potential of that sector to aid in the development of our country. Well, this morning, to help me have that conversation, I have Mr. Anthony Morrison and Evans Tre-Mensah, and they'll be sharing their thoughts with us. These two people have worked in the agri sector for some time, and they have levels of experience that they can bring to bear in this particular conversation. So let me start with Evans Tre-Mensah, who has been organizing seminars, and I see that a lot on social media, and focusing on agri, especially for youth development. Good morning to have you here. Your quick thoughts about the management of agri in this country and the concerns that over time politicians haven't done so great in that particular sector.
All right, good morning, Bernice. I think that over the years, the way our politicians and policymakers have handled our agri sector cannot be said to be perfect. However, I think that agri also cannot be decoupled from politics. I wouldn't say that it has been politicized 100%, but I think that the policymakers, the drivers of the policy, somehow make it to look like it is being politicized. For instance, if we look at the planting for food and job policy, I mean, it is a purely political decision or initiative, all right? And in that sense, you will want to see that it is the political actors, you know, at the Ministry of Agri that would drive that initiative. So on a larger sense, you agree that even though we are not supposed to politicize our agriculture sector, somehow, once it's being driven by political actors, their interest, their vision, how they want to direct and drive that sector will have a very...
Hi. Oh, too bad we lost Reverend Evans Tre-Mensah. That he's CEO of Agri Impact Limited, and he was making a very important point there on the planting for food and jobs. And Anthony Morrison is CEO Chamber of Agribusiness. He will also be sharing his thoughts with us. Well, we have Reverend Evans Tre-Mensah back. I'm sorry, we lost you there. Just wrap up on what you were saying.
Yes, so I was saying that it's not supposed to be politicized though, but because politicians and political actors are the ones driving it, you see that their political inclinations and influences will have a lot of impact on it. And that is where sometimes it affects the sector. All right. I believe that going forward, we should have a conversation how we can decouple politics from that sector so that we can all benefit from it.
Well, so we've been having these conversations over time. You have been organizing seminars, especially for young people. On the front page of the Daily Graphic yesterday, there was this story, and you know the man, Juma Odum, the one who is said to have revolutionized the Nigerian agric sector when it comes to rice production and the consumption of locally produced rice. Here's what he thinks. We must put the agric sector under the National Development Planning Commission, where, you know, there's a grand plan, so it's not left to the discretion of a certain political party whether or not to continue a certain project so that another person is not credited for its success. You know how we do it in this country, unfortunately. How do you think we can practicalize this, and how soon should we do it?
You know, I read the same story. I know Mr. Odum is a mentor, somebody I look up to in the sector. However, Bernice, let's look at our history. The National Development Planning Commission, since its inception, exactly what has the institution done so far, so that we can juxtapose it to the current context and see what they can do in the future. We used to have Vision 2020. What has come of the Vision 2020? I mean, where are we now? What exactly has the National Development Commission done so far that we can say that this is their work? Because they are supposed to lead in the national development policies, but the policies are mostly influenced by politicians and driven by them. And I can't really see their impacts, okay, in our national life. All right, unless, of course, decide that from today we are all making a decision that we are giving out very key sectors in the economy to National Development Planning Commission to drive it and to run it. But I don't see that one happening. If we give the agri sector to the National Development Planning Commission and we say that they should run it, invariably it will come back to the politician taking control of it and driving it for their own interest. So it's a good call, of course, but I don't see the practicality of it unless we all decide that we are now relinquishing the agri sector to the National Development Planning Commission or institution to run it independently. But you will still have the political influences coming from other politicians and the government in power. Now trying.
Well, we lost Reverend Evan Mensah again, but he was just responding to the call to have the agric sector put under the NDPC. Let me bring in now the CEO of the Agri Chamber, Anthony Morrison. Good morning to you. Let me start off on that point with you as well and give further details to what Mr. Juma Odum said. Now, he was speaking at the Graphic National Development Series and is the first of its kind. And he says we don't need manifestos to drive agriculture. We need a national program to drive it. And that's why he believes the NDPC must be given that task to develop an agenda and a plan for our agric sector so that no matter which party comes in, there's an existing policy they run with. Whichever party takes us to any point, the next party or the next government run by a particular party takes over. What are your quick thoughts on that?
Well, thank you very much, and very good morning to your cherished viewers. First of all, I heard the gentleman speaking and making a statement that I think that I need to correct, because the chamber works very closely with the NDPC, and the kind of work they do, I tell you, if you get in there and get to, you will appreciate their work. With regards to the agriculture sector, NDPC has done a lot of work. In fact, our national nutrition policy, the food security policies, and several others were led by NDPC. So please, when we are on national television, we should be mindful of.
Sorry to interject. Sorry to interject. Can you hear me, Mr. Morrison? I think Reverend Tre's point was that the institution exists. It has done some work, but what is the level of its impact? And I have hosted the NDPC here, and we've had conversations about the fact that there are plans that exist, but are those plans executed to the letter? Do we say, for example, this nutrition policy that exists, is it being carried out? Is it being executed in the way and manner that it should be?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, there is no institution in Ghana whose policies or strategies are being implemented to the latter. In Ghana, the major problem we have is to drive some of these implementation strategies. So even if you take the government-owned coordinated economic program, you realize that there are so much challenges with its implementation.
We are going into an election in 2024, which is just a year and a few months from today. Are you confident that if we say from the next election during the campaign period, we don't want to hear what anybody has for the agri sector? We don't want to know what your government or your future government policies will be. As a people, we will determine how our agri sector should be run, and we will put it in the hands of the NDPC to ensure that whichever government takes over will execute it to the letter. Do you have that confidence that we can do that for the 2024 elections?
Well, the Chamber of Agribusiness holds a divergent view with regards to NDPC as the agricultural implementation organization for the country. Our strategy as a country is well thought out. MOFA is not the implementation. They are policy development that also harness that of the coordinated policy from NDPC. The decentralization system of the agriculture sector puts the implementation at the doorsteps of the local government. So that is why we have a deputy minister in charge of agriculture at the Ministry of Local Government. And if you go to the local government or the local government ministry, at the district level, we have the Department of Agriculture, which is ceded to the district assemblies. Then at the regional level, you have the regional agricultural department. Now, and that also concentrated at the regional level. So let's be clear in the agriculture implementation program. Programs are run at the national level, all right, like the PFJ, but the implementation of it actually sitting at the district levels. What we should be doing for agriculture is not to put the implementation at NDPC, but to give the sector enough money. Recently, if you listen to the President's State of the Nation address, and I'm sure that also occasioned from the Chamber's Senate calculated budgetary allocation for the sector, and also what goes into with regards to the development partners, over 40% financing of the agriculture sector, and over 10 billion importation of foodstuffs into the country. The President stated clearly that yes, there is a need to do that, but what is the strategy? We need a strategy, we need continuous investment. And that was why we said that if we can look at least $1 billion to $10 billion annual continuous investment. Don't forget, Ghana is a signatory to the CADEP and the African Union Maputo and the Malabo Declaration. That requires every government to make available at least 10% of its budgetary allocation, in incremental form for the sector. Population has been increasing from 80 million to about 32 million people. And we still continue to make less than 1% budgetary allocation for a sector that requires continuous incremental budgetary allocation for us to be able to achieve our food security challenges. So it's not about who is implementing, it's about government making the deliberate effort to put money, public funding into agriculture. When you look at European Union, you look at United States Department for Agriculture of USA, they always drive serious investment into the agriculture sector. But then there is another call on the side that how do we also design some innovative financing from the private sector? And these are other suggestions where we are looking at, okay, can government give the private sector some exemptions or in terms of tax rebate if they decide to go into agriculture? So there are some of the areas that we are still looking at. How do we win ourselves of foreign influence when it comes to our own food production as a country? So we have to look at a more coordinated strategy towards funding of agriculture in Ghana and to make sure it's sustainable. The sustainability of it is a major concern. And ideally, you may want to say that as a country, we should have a national food and agriculture steering committee or council, which is made up of the president himself, the managing directors and CEOs of major banks in the country, and other major corporations. So they can drive some public funding and put it directly into. Here is it must be put at the behest of the president. Okay, just like the president is co-chairing the Sustainable Development Goals and other climate change and all that, we need the president to lead, but the implementation will have to be done as stipulated in the Constitution.
Right. We'll be wrapping up this conversation shortly, but let me come to Reverend Evans Tremensa and take your concluding thoughts on this conversation. You are organizing a summit. Like I mentioned earlier, this is something very dear to your heart. Tell us more about that summit and how you hope that these conversations that you have, especially with young people, will culminate in that desire that we all have for the agri sector to indeed be very sustainable and run efficiently.
All right, thank you very much, Bernice. I think that let me still reiterate my point that Mr. Morrison was wrong when he said that I don't know about what the National Development Planning Commission does. What I want him to know is that what I said was that National Development Planning Commission has been a system, they've been working, all right? But my point is still that they cannot run the agri ministry or the agri sector because it has a very strong political influence. I've been saying this to say that we need a political way to drive the agriculture sector if we really want to see it impact in all the sectors.
But Rev, is that not where the problem is then? Is that not where the problem is? Because if Party A comes, or even if a government under a certain party comes and says, this is what I want to do, let's take Planting for Food and Jobs, for example, and begins it, 4 years, 8 years is running it. And then another government, it could be the same party, but a different president with a different vision, takes over and says, oh, I don't think Planting for Food and Jobs is the way to go. Let's focus on something else. That's what the problem is. So there may be a political will, but because there's no laid down plan, everyone comes with their own vision and then implements it to a point, and then there's really no real growth because as a people, we've not determined exactly what we want to do. So is the problem not then that the political will can be there, but when there is no plan we are running with, everybody takes us, based on how they feel or what they think is the best.
Yes, it's a conversation that we can take it further. I mean, by rallying all the stakeholders, okay, to have a very strong conversation going forward. And my point is that to run the agri sector, you need a very strong political will. Someone with leadership courage, someone with vision, someone with empathy to see that they want to see transformation and change in the sector. All right, and you can never dissociate politics or policy making from the agri. The agri sector is the foundation of the economy, and therefore we need courageous leaders that will run it and drive it. Having said that, public investment, as he said, I agree with him, that needs to be really pushed into that sector so that we can be able to build a lot of infrastructures. We need a lot of public funding. We need to have innovative financing, as he said, in order to be able to push a lot of money into the area, especially the rural development side. A lot of people are losing their farms. They are moving out to the urban areas, adding pressure to the cities. That is the reason why I have taken it upon myself to drive this narrative, to be able to move a lot of young people into that sector by inspiring them, letting them know the value in the agri sector, how we can incentivize the sector to help a lot of people to go in. Mind you, we are all saying that we need to create jobs in the country. There are no jobs in the public sector. How do we create jobs when we are not focusing on the agri and making it more attractive and getting more people in there and helping them to be able to build decent livelihood? That is the core. That is the mission. You know, we need to have a very strong courage, vision, leadership, inspiration to be able to drive many of these young people to create decent jobs in the agri value chain. And Mr. Morrison will attest to the fact that the agri sector has the capacity to accommodate almost everybody in Ghana. Okay, we are saying that almost about 12.5% of people are unemployed in the country. How do we work towards reducing that kind of a number so that we can get more people in that sector? And that is the reason why we are organizing the summit. They're bringing expert stakeholders in to tell us the opportunities that are in, how government agencies can collaborate with all of us so that we can create enabling environment for these young people driven with technology so that they can be able to at least help us to secure food for our people. You know, food insecurity has become something that is the headache of nations, but we have the energies, we have the young people. How can we mobilize them, all right, drive them with inspiration? Bernice, we've been speaking about our great problems time and again. What we need is that the solutions all have been perfect, is there. The researches are all there, papers are there. We need leadership, somebody to drive it, to lead the people, to tell them that this is the way. I've been there. It is valuable. It is conducive. It is attractive. Let's go. A leader is someone who knows the way, who shows the way, and who also walks in the way.
Right. So when is this program? When is this program, and how can people be a part of it if they're interested?
Yes, the program is happening tomorrow, 1st of April at the KNUST Engineering Auditorium, and it's for free. Everybody can come there and register. You can also go to the website of AgriWeb Ghana and register and come. We have outlined many opportunities for our young people there. As they register, we start the training for them. We engage them. We're going to have different parts of the service. We're going to have breakout sessions. People that want to go into crop production or animal production. Those who want to go into agro processing. Those who want to even go into tree planting. We have all those earmarked opportunities for them. And as they come, we're going to take them through. And the training will start, incentives will be given out, and then we will monitor them and make sure that they are doing the right thing so that we can all safeguard the food security and secure our nations for all of us to enjoy.
Right. So I'm just looking at this. There's such a list of people who are going to be there. John Kumar, Deputy Minister of Finance, is expected to be there. You have Ben Boachi Asep, Sepeni Kadakon. She's a founder of Farmer Tribe, and so this is just a long list. So you can find the website again. You said is what?
agriwealth.org.
Agriweb.org. Okay, and so it's the Ghana Youth Agriculture Summit. Just by way of information.
Just a quick point. Everyone who is on this bill has something to offer this conference.
Right.
The reason is that, for instance, John Kumar is coming to speak about policies and partnership for agricultural development, what the government is doing, how it's going to partner private sectors, you know, the one Mr. Morrison said. If you look at Kofi Fosu from the NEIP, what is their training mandate for young people? If we look at Sepenika Dak, she's a farmer, she's a vegetable farmer in the north. She's going to tell us how we can do it in the north, how we can encourage more people in the north to also go into vegetable farming. We have Ben Boachi, who is going to talk about climate change and agriculture, how we can use climate smart agriculture solutions to improving our food security. We have lawyer Richard is also into fintech, you know, and agri-tech. He's going to tell us about emerging technologies in the agri sector and how the youth can take advantage of. We have Exim Bank SME head. We're going to take at how we can take advantage of the Exim Bank policies and programs for the young people. So everybody who is here has something to offer our young people, and we are encouraging everybody everywhere in Ghana to head to Kumasi KN University tomorrow first at the Engineering Auditorium. And we are all going to get together, make sure that our country drive forward. We increase our prosperity level for our country. We make sure that we're able to secure our borders by securing our food system and helping every young person to build decent lives and prosper.
Thank you for doing this. We wish you all the best, and we will be following on what will be happening at the Ghana Youth Agric Summit. And for you, Mr. Morrison, your final thoughts as we wrap up the conversation. We are getting into the campaign period, and so a lot of our president hopefuls, let me put it that way, they have to be flag bearers before they're president, but the ultimate aim is to be president. So those who are hoping to be presidents are listening. What must they be focusing on as we prepare for the 2024 elections, and what should the ultimate goal be for the agric sector?
Well, let me emphasize here that Ghana's agriculture does not require political leadership. It requires private sector leadership. The economy is driven by the private sector. We need government to make policies that are so sustainable that the private sector can invest into it. What we have been saying at the policy level is that government ought to make not medium to short term, but long-term policies. Because if you look at our medium and short-term policies, they are only 4 years, 5 years, 7 years. No, looking at the agriculture sector, no serious investment partner who make investment into it when it's 5 years. Now, let me also add that I'm also the chairman of the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Body of TVET Commission. And the major issue when we have done our skills gap analysis is skills for the agriculture sector. 3 key issues: skills, market guarantee, and finance. And we always say that if you look at the post-harvest losses of Ghana, you know that Ghana produces a lot of food. Our problem is market. 2, if we are able to harness on the skills that we have and increase the kind we need to be able to be competitive and have comparative advantages, we need to bring on board some additional skills, especially at the Farm Institute colleges, where the sector skills body have actually designed a number of curriculums and manuals that are for the training of all these students across board, even at the technical university level. So we need to look at what exactly do youth need. And I can tell you, I've done youth activities before in the past 15 years. I can tell you today, when you interview a youth and he says, I'm giving you everything, go and stay in the rural areas. We tell you that, look, in the rural areas, there are not access to internet. So social media is a disincentive for a lot of youth to go into agriculture. We have done a research with FAO some 7 years ago, where we interviewed more than 1,600 youth, and not even one person said they can stay a day without social media. So that should tell you that the complexities of the issues with youth are not about seminar.
Well, we'll have to leave it here. Too bad we lost Anthony Morrison's feed. But this morning we've been talking about the agric sector and calls for the depoliticization of that sector. And we've been exploring the angles and interesting contributions there by our guests. If you missed any portion of our conversation. It will be live on our Facebook page. You can furnish yourself with the details. It's now time for my Twinnie to join me. When I say my Twinnie, you'll understand when you see her. And we're going to be talking about cues and lyrics, okay? And don't worry, don't change the dial. She'll be here to tell you more about that. Do stay. Welcome back to the AM show, and sorry, you caught me laughing because my pizza is making me happy. That's my twin sister. For those of you who do not know, my pizza CBD is here to talk to us about cues and lyrics, and I was just asking her what song to sing. I won't tell you her response though, but it got me laughing. So Maps, cues and lyrics, finally it's coming on. What should we know about it?
What should we know about it? I'm so excited. Even the words are, rolling off my tongue. So what should we know about it? It's a music reality show, right? And today is audition day, which means if you have a talent, if you can sing, if you can rap, Cues and Lyrics is the place you want to be or you want to audition for at Tiger Creative Studios in Achimota. 18 to 35 years of age. That's our cutoff age, 35. And it starts in Actually, it started. It started at 9 a.m.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So please, the location again.
So it's Tiger Creative Studios, 9 a.m. That's in Achimota, so Abofu.
Okay.
Yeah, Abofu. But also you'll see the Joy Prime and the Hits FM and the JoyNews flags and pull-ups, so you won't get lost. Yeah, we want you guys to come and have fun. Come and show your vocal, your talents, rap, singing. You might be the next Ghanaian Whitney Houston, the next Ghanaian Beyonce.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important, you see, that you're offered some of these platforms because for some of you, all you need is a launch pad, right? So even if you know a friend, and you know the thing that excites me about these things is that sometimes the people who have the real talent, sometimes some of them do not have the confidence because life may have been rough. They may have tried other opportunities, it didn't work out. There was an audition I saw for a reality show in the US where the man's children had signed up for him. And he was sitting in the audience and he walked up on the stage. He was like, what's happening? And they said, no, we did this for you, come. And you won't believe it. Such authentic talent. So if you know anybody who can sing or rap, Maps is waiting for you. If you just want to take a photo too, you can go there.
It's true. But you see, the nice thing about Cues and Lyrics is that, so our 16 contestants will get grooming. They'll be taught about distribution, how streaming works, how you get your money, or how you earn your money.
It's important.
Branding.
Yeah.
Also what to tweet, what not to tweet. PR. How to talk to or how to behave in an interview, how to speak, how to sit. Because some people will be just tweeting because they're tweeting, but you have to understand that now you are some sort of a public figure, or even if you are not a public figure, but you are trying to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you have some sort of an image and a brand to protect.
You remember what happened to Kitty?
Exactly.
When people want to pull up tweets. So look, this is an entire package that you won't get anywhere. So Maps and the team will be waiting for you at the Tiger.
And it's free.
Oh, you don't have to pay.
By the way, I just, if anybody says that you have to pay, they are not from Joy Prime. They are not representing Cues and Lyrics. It is free.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Please, this is the opportunity you've been waiting for. Are you a singer? Are you a rapper? Or can you combine both? That would be fantastic. Maps and the team will be waiting for you at Achimota Abofu
Tiger Creative Studios.
Tiger Creative Studios. Yes. You can do a quick Google search. And here's why it's important, because they're giving you an all-round package. They're not just helping you get your voice to the point you want it to be. They're also teaching you how to be that superstar that you want to be.
Yeah, talking about superstar, would you like to show us your vocal? There's a Diana Hamilton song I want to sing.
Which one?
That I forgot. Oh.
Adumo.
Oh, Nyami. Oh,
Adumo. Adumo.
Listen, so the essence of my praise is centered on your grace.
Adum, Adum, Wado. Okay, please don't. Those of you who like going on social media to bash people, don't bash Maps. You see,
please, if you bash me, I'll bash you back. Me, I will bash you.
She's done very, very, very well.
Thank you.
She actually is my South African twin sister, and she can. Some of you cannot even say a word of any South African language. So please don't upset us and go and write things on social media. Pacho, oh no, so yeah. So we'll meet her at the Tiger Creative Studios at Achimota Abofu. But before we go, condolences, unfortunately, to the family of Robert Hammond, who's been laid to rest today at the Faith Evangelical Mission Worldwide, Matayeko. Rest well. We say rest in peace. And don't forget, the Ghana Youth Agriculture Summit is tomorrow. Kumasi is the place to be at the Engineering Auditorium at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So please make a date. And also, happy birthday to Vida Rose Tilasi of Parliament House from everyone at your department and me. They wish you all the best.
They wish you all the best. Bernice, Lansah.
Hello, my darling.
Will you give me the pleasure?
Yes, please.
To end the show
for you. Of course, why not?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. From Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's always a pleasure bringing you all the latest in the world of sports, entertainment, and news. The show was hosted by Bernice Lansah and Benjamin Akakpo. And this is Mapita Sividi signing out. Thank you so much for your company.
Thank you, Mouse, for doing this. God bless. See you again, God willing, next week. Up next is News Desk. Please stay.